Hello. Hello, I'm Dennis Fletcher with Him and I News, and we're here at Councilman Ledesma's office, San Jacinto Realty, and we're here for the forum of the candidates for the San Jacinto City Council, plus the treasurer and candidate for assembly. So we're going to start with introductions. We're going to start off with Andrew Kayek over here. So Andrew, if you could introduce yourself and we'll go around the table.
Wonderful. Good evening. I'm Andrew Kayek, the mayor of the city of San Jacinto. 10 years of service for the city, but regionally I provided a lot of leadership, and of course now I'm running for the State Assembly office, 42nd District.
Hi, my name is Pastor Brian Hawkins, pastor of a church, Divine Appointment Worship Center here in San Jacinto, serving in the community, very actively involved, running for city council here in San Jacinto.
Hi everybody, thanks for tuning in. Russ Utz, former mayor and council member, City of San Jacinto, running for re-election while we listen to Eddie's phone ring. Community servant to the max, have been involved in so many different organizations, including past president of the Lions Club, Chamber of Commerce, currently on Ramona's board, and so many others. It's exciting that you came to listen to us. Please make sure you stay through the whole broadcast and listen to all my friends here at the table, neighbors.
Hello, good evening. My name is Phil Ayala, and I'm a resident of San Jacinto. I've been so since 2005, and I am running for San Jacinto City Council, one of the 3 seats. I've been here raising my kids and bringing my family, and love the city, and I'm a teacher. I work for the San Bernardino City Unified School District. I also founded the Military Explorers program here in the city for about 6 years now, a totally volunteer, extracurricular CTE program for the youth in our community. I'm also a soldier. I'm a military officer, part of the California State Guard, and which is part of the California National Guard. And I'm seeking your vote of confidence for the opportunity to serve on this city. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Crystal Ruiz. I'm the former mayor of San Jacinto, current mayor pro tem of San Jacinto. I've been on council since 2012, and it has been my honor, the greatest privilege to represent the city of San Jacinto and the citizens of our community. And hopefully we will be able to do it again, and thank you for your support.
Good evening. My name is Mike Vanderlin, and I am running for the treasurer position in the city of San Jacinto. First time I've ever done this. Just looking for a good oversight, having being able to know the numbers, get plugged into the community. We've been here 40 years. We want to see this city prosper long beyond the years that I've been here, and I appreciate your vote.
Thank you very much. Well, now we've had an introduction to everybody at the panel, so let's get started with our questions. And we're going to start off with Andrew Kayek, who's running for assembly. And so, Mr. Kayek, could you tell us a little bit about the function of the California State Assembly and what you consider critical issues that you want to focus on?
Absolutely. So I see it very much in a way of representing all the people in the district. The 42nd District is very diverse, and each area really has their local issues that matter to them. But what's great is you have to be able to understand very complex issues in a lot of different areas. Right? This is education for our youth. It could be water issues in the area. It could be environmental protection issues. Jobs, how to prepare for a pandemic. Tourism, highways, infrastructure. These are all areas that I have experience in over the 10 years of government service. And as a businessman, I understand how to work with others to get things done. Right? That means working across the aisle with people who maybe you don't agree with on everything, but you have to find common ground to do so. And at the state level, it's equal to the House of Representatives, right? The Assembly is the large house in the state. And so policy and what we implement affects the people in our district and affects the whole state, but we're there to represent the voice within the district of all the people on those issues is the sole purpose of what the Assembly is.
Thank you, Andrew. That was very instructive. If anybody has any questions, Eddie, isn't it correct that they can key them in here with the
people can ask questions at the People can ask questions during this live forum. We will be asking the questions at the end of your questions, so if anybody does have questions from the live people that's watching now, make sure you do comment those questions and who the questions are directed to, which candidate.
Good, and then we'll bring them up at the end. Okay, now we're going to turn to Brian Hawkins. Brian Hawkins is new. He's a challenger for the City Council, San Jacinto City Council. Brian, can you tell us a little bit about what your goals and objectives are for your candidacy and what you hope to accomplish for the city?
Absolutely, and it's great to finally have everybody at the table to see all of who we're running against, and so it's a privilege and an opportunity. I've worked with majority of the individuals here at the table, whether they were mayor pro tem. I'm running because there's so much in this city that I've come to love. I've been here for about 5 years now in the city of San Jacinto, and my intended goal is to be a long-term resident here. My children, as you saw my daughter here filming a little earlier, I try to get them as active involved. And because I have children, that's one of my biggest concerns is, things for the youth here in this community, which, ultimately goes into the safety in this community. I feel like, safety seems like it's always been an issue in many cities, and for some reason it's just an ongoing issue. And so I definitely want to be able to sit down and tackle, some of the things that's going on, some of the gangs that are forming, even in some of the local schools here, that a lot of individuals might not be aware of, because I grew up in communities, that were started up just like San Jacinto, that a lot of individuals come moving in here. And so, I definitely want to, be a part of, making a difference with a lot of the youth in our community, and as well as even, having a place, to, call your own, call home, businesses to get thriving here in the city of San Jacinto. I definitely want to see new businesses come in, but one of the things I don't want to do is find ourselves overlooking businesses that have already been here. A lot of times we want to bring in something new, track the new, but then there's businesses that have been here that have been faithful throughout the years, that have weathered some of the storms that tend to get overlooked. And so to be able to help bring in revenue to some of the already existing business, and then tackle the homeless problem. I mean, to turn a blind eye and pretend like it doesn't exist. People see the panhandling that goes on at many of the gas stations in different areas. And so, that's definitely one of my focus areas. I think it can be solved. It's not a huge problem. We don't have a Skid Row like they do in LA, and so before we become Skid Row, let's address it now before it becomes out of hand.
Thank you very much. See if we can go into a laser mode now. Russ, could you give us like the top 1 or 2 key things that you want to accomplish, and then we'll go through everybody else, and then we'll get to our predetermined questions.
Sure, thank you, Dennis. So 4 years ago, I made a lot of promises when I ran for election the first time, and hit the ground running because I was already involved with the council so much that I already knew what we were doing and where our strengths and weaknesses were. And so then my main promise was that we needed to increase our police coverage. In the last 4 years, we've added deputies twice. Code enforcement was also a huge issue in the city. And so we added code officers during my first term. And so I'd like to continue working to improve our public safety, work on our economic development, and continue to build our enrichment programs and utilize what we have the best we can, while also working on the infrastructure projects that are going to bring that next level of prosperity to San Jacinto. I sit on the RCTC Commission, and I'm helping spearhead the Mid-County Parkway project that Mayor Kayek actually got started, and now I'm making sure and seeing that home.
And can you tell us what the RPC Commission is?
Riverside County Transportation Commission.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, and then next we have
Phil Ayala.
a newcomer, Phil. So what are your main goals here, Phil? The top, say, 2 or 3.
Top 2 or 3. Well, first off, I'm not a politician, and I've never been a politician. And that's not the ground that I'm running on. I am your neighbor, and I've said that many, many times. I am here because I have a stake in this city. And I think we all of us kind of share the same goals here. We just really want to make the city a better place. I've raised my family here, and now my adult daughters are off doing their own thing. Being a teacher of almost 20 years, I believe one of the foundations of a good, successful community is education. we have to focus on our kids, our youth, our up-and-coming people that are going to be able to take care of me one day, and take care of all of us one day, I think is a really big foundation for my candidacy to run and represent the city of San Jacinto. Small businesses, bring them here, keep them here, help them open here, and get more jobs here. Because as a community member who unfortunately has to drive out of the city to work every single day, I really wish I can keep that here. Focusing on my Military Explorers program for our community, being able to help kids and train kids and get them looking towards the future and get them thinking about what they're going to do when they graduate from high school. How are they going to make their lives better and also bring that experience back to us here in the city of San Jacinto.
Great, thank you very much, Phil. And Crystal Ruiz, what are the top key goals that you would like to focus on in this next administration?
Oh, there is so much going on, isn't there, here in San Jacinto? When I ran in 2012, I came in here and I had this great idea. I wanted to balance the budget, and I wanted to bring filming here. Both of which, I did the filming in 3 months. They were blowing up buildings on State Street. I don't know if you remember that one. And we balanced the budget very quickly. It was because of people like Andrew Kayek, Scott Miller, Mark Bartel, Alonzo Ledesma, myself. We went through the budget line by line. We didn't, just sit here and kick the can down the road. We solved the issues. And so from the beginning, I've been reliable enough to do that. Russ joined us, and we've been lucky enough to continue that path. The city of San Jacinto has done a really good job with the little money that we have. And so I'd like to see, we are bringing in over 2 million square feet of retail. We're bringing in, when I first ran, the first year, there was 12 new homes built. That was for the whole year, 12. And now there's nearly 400 per year. We have been doing exactly what we need to do to bring this city up, and it couldn't have been done not just by me, but by the entire city council. And so I'm honored to be able to continue that path to bring more jobs. One of the things that COVID did for us, as bad as it is, it's made businesses realize that people can work from home. And because they can work from home, guess what? They can live right here in San Jacinto and work from home. So that's a good thing, higher paying jobs right here in our own community. Something good out of something really negative. And so hopefully we'll see a lot of those jobs come, especially since we're wired for it. This city's wired for it as far as the internet goes. So hopefully we'll see more of those jobs. We'll see more housing being built, and we'll see more younger families. Right now I think our average age is 31.2 average age so we're bringing in young families. When we first ran, it was like 60. It was really older people who moved here. It was a retirement community. Not anymore. Not anymore. San Jacinto's on the rise, and I think it's because of the city council that we have, and I think that as we move forward, it's going to be an honor to work with any of these people. I think that we're going to be able to make a difference and help our community thrive.
Great, that's wonderful. Mike Vanderlin, what does the treasurer goals look like for the coming year?
So I've made the decision to run for the position. And unlike these folks here, I get to focus on one thing, which is money. And I get the one word that keeps coming back to me time and time again is stewardship. You want to be a good steward of the money. So I can focus on those finances that the city brings in. We bring in, I'd say approximately, maybe I'm wrong on this, somebody could correct me from the crowd, 20% of what Hemet brings in taxes. So we have to, pay CAL FIRE, we have to pay our police officers, we have to do all those things. Now, the treasurer position is largely an oversight. We've already got folks that manage the funds, so I'm not going to get in there and say, okay, I'm going to cut a check to this guy, I'm going to cut a check to that guy. That's all predetermined for me. What's great about the treasurer position in San Jacinto is, if somebody comes to me, I can say, hey, this is where our expenditures are. This is what we're looking at for roads. This is what we're looking at for fire and safety and all these things. So really, it's to be a good steward of your money, to take care of it, to make sure it's invested the right ways, so that it goes a long, long way.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to get back to that investment strategy years in a little while. So now we're going to get into some of our specific questions that we've all discussed here earlier. And the first one has to do with the fact that we live on the intersection of 7 earthquake faults here, not just the San Andreas and the San Jacinto earthquake fault. We got 7 of them here. And one of the major groups, national groups, to help prepare for that is called CERT, Community Emergency
Response.
Right. Started right after the Mexico City earthquake by the city of Los Angeles, believe it or not. And so we'd kind of like to go around the table and get your ideas on how you feel San Jacinto can better prepare for disasters and then recover, because it's a 2-step process. Is what do we do to prepare for them, and then how do we help people once the disasters hit? And the major 4 disasters are earthquakes. Well, the fire department tells me they're in this order: earthquakes, wind, fire, and then flood. But don't discount flood, because we've had some major floods around here, which these people will, I'm sure, bring up and remind you about. So Andrew, could you tell us a little bit about your thoughts about disaster preparation and recovery?
Absolutely. So this isn't something foreign to me. As a veteran, I spent years preparing for disasters or emergencies of every type and kind that you could imagine. In fact, a good portion of my career was providing humanitarian relief to many other countries and nations that either weathered a hurricane or some other type of catastrophe. When I see the 42nd District during the pandemic, we really had no leadership at our assembly level. There should have been organization. There should have been supplies. There should have been ventilators and other items being brought to our communities and coordinated. And what is even worse is there's no proactiveness for going into the winter or the fall. Many people are concerned, and studies show that we should be seeing some spikes going into the winter, and we shouldn't be waiting, right? It's just like the Great Shakeout. I've participated in the Great Shakeout for almost 2 decades now in our community, and how you work together with police and fire and the electric company, the gas company, and all those resources in your community. But the pandemic really brings this question up, is now that we've had this pandemic, what are we doing to prepare for it? And even beyond that, we're going to tourism season. You see, our area is heavily driven by tourism because it's so beautiful here during the spring and the winter time frame compared to all the other states, right? The Canadians come here, the foreigners come here. California is the #1 national destination for tourism, and it's the 3rd international. So our businesses, all of our entertainment venues, they count on this, right? Our tribes count on these people coming in, but yet we have no travel restrictions, whereas states like Hawaii does, other states do, where at the international airport, before you fly in, you have to be tested and be tested negative before you fly into that airport. And upon arrival, they take your temperature. It's common sense things like that. I look to find common ground with across the aisle other assembly members up in Sacramento to bring state level common sense solution, but also really to help our people, our working class people, our minorities, get them back to work and to do it safely.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Brian, what would you propose that we do to prepare in advance for some of these disasters that will hit us at some point, and then how to recover from them?
Absolutely. Having to living through a disaster, a hurricane, when we moved from North Carolina when Hurricane Hugo hit, I understand how relocation can be difficult. I think it's sad that we haven't yet created a full disaster relief plan, even across this country. When I think of Hurricane Katrina, thinking of the delay 3-4 days before the government was able to come in and assist. I look at the school districts. Every year they have the earthquake drill. They prepare the students. They have a walkthrough, a map to show where the students are supposed to evacuate, and the process, get them underneath the table. I think that we need to have something similar put into place and given everyone, the necessary information. You can go to Walmart and pick up a relief backpack and different things to have yourself. But I think educating people, especially knowing that, when you said earlier, I don't think many people in the city of San Jacinto realize that there are 7 faults, realize that the flood that hit a few years ago, there are a lot of people may have seen some of the floods, but I think educating, there's a lot of families that are moving in from Los Angeles and San Bernardino and San Diego that know the history of the foundation of this community. So I think that, educating people and also making sure that, we are prepared, already having the steps put into place. We shouldn't be discussing in 2020 how to, work our way through disasters when it's already, known that these disasters are imminent, they're going to happen. And so it's time to make sure that we have all the right information in place and it's circulated through the schools and through houses and, and getting code enforcement in different organizations that can go out and make sure every home has this check-off list. When people move into apartments, maybe that's something that can be put into their rental agreement when they buy a home, that they're giving this information out. Because there's no excuse for us to not have this information available to individuals.
Thank you very much. Now, Russ probably has maybe more experience than anybody in this room on disaster preparedness. So I'm going to throw you a little bit of a ringer here, Russ.
Okay.
I mean, everybody knows about earthquakes and everybody knows about fires. A lot of people forget about wind and floods. And you probably know personally about how the winds took all the tops off the mobile homes of
Oh, sure.
Jacinto, and the floods flooded it. Could you talk a little bit about that area and what you think maybe we could do to...
Sure. Well, we had a historic wind event in, I believe it was 2007, that we had over 100-mile-an-hour sustained and gusting winds. We remember the Shea Homes development along Ramona Expressway right past Sanderson actually had a huge block wall blow down because we found out at that time that the wall wasn't necessarily built for that kind of wind load. And so one thing that we learned through that is that the city, and I wasn't a council member back then, but I was eventually a planning commissioner. And what the city did is the city went back and looked at our building codes. And we determined that we need better building codes than what the bare minimum of the state is. And that's one of the ways for all the disasters that our city makes sure that the city is prepared and protected is that we go the extra step. Sometimes the people that are doing development, whether they're doing a backyard patio structure, and they get really mad because they have to have a half-yard footing if they have a freestanding patio structure. I know that because I have one, and I was really kind of bummed at the time because that's a lot of concrete. You get 6 yards of concrete in a truck. And so to put a third of a truck just in your 4 footings is a lot of concrete. And it's expensive, but it's there for safety and protection. And so the great thing of our situation is collaboration, right? So we have Saboba, who are great neighbors who collaborate, who have their own public safety departments. We have City of Hemet, who has their own public safety departments. And then, of course, we're part of Riverside County Sheriff's and CAL FIRE. And so if we have a localized event, there are a lot of resources that can be brought to bear rapidly. And I agree with Brian. Communication and education are huge because if your population is prepared, they're less likely to panic and have some of the associated issues that come with panic. And so whether it's our city social media that we are just doing gangbusters on, whether it's our Ignite San Jacinto program, which is an outreach program for community, and part of that program is to embody the Be San Jacinto feeling. We want everybody, we are all neighbors, and we want everybody to know each other and to understand each other and to appreciate the differences as well as the commonalities. And so I think that the neighbors being able to support each other, because of course we're all going to have different levels of preparation, and we're out here, right? And so it might be a day or two before help can really, really come in strong. Like Brian was talking about, sometimes, the bigger government agencies take a while. But if we can all help each other through in the short term, I really think that's where our strength of power is here in San Jacinto.
Well, in fact, the fire department has told the senior parks that we're last on the list for them to come to. It's going to be schools, hospitals, a lot of it, and they said, you need to get ready, you need to prepare yourself. So any help from the city would be, but I have one more question for you. What's this little engineering window that's on the other side over there? Is that something that's useful for our citizens?
Engineering window.
Engineering department window?
The
that's-
Department of Engineering.
That's our Department of Engineering. Our city engineer actually maintains an office
Okay.
here in town. And so anything that goes through the engineering department for the city, whether it's plan checks or certain building permits and things of that nature, they all go through the engineer's office. And so to participate in the city economy, they opened an office here as well.
Okay, that sounds like another resource available to us. Isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, now our military man here.
One of the military men.
From a military standpoint, is there a military approach, or is your military background and give you any kind of special perspective on approaching and handling a disaster?
Well, just like Andrew, who's a Navy veteran, I'm an Army veteran, and it's something we've trained for, and we've prepared for. And also being a teacher, this is actually something that I teach my kids about all the time. I'm actually a Riverside County CERT trainer, Community Emergency Response Team trainer. So I've also trained my students emergency preparedness, and I've been doing that for the past almost 20 years now. I teach them.
How does somebody get into your class?
They got to be a high school student or a middle school student. Yeah, well, I can still train you though. And just like Russ has stated and Brian has stated and Andrew has stated, it is a matter of collaboration and being able to work with all the different resources that are in the city. Fire department, police department, and also the individual citizen like myself have to take that responsibility to be prepared. For example, at my house, I have 50-gallon drums of water in my backyard. I have about three of those. I have collected a good supply of military MREs, or meals ready to eat, and medical supplies, and extra clothing, extra medication, and even pet food for my animals that I have 7 of them at the house. So we've got to think about those. And all those little things are training and education facts that need to be shared with everybody, with our students, with our families, and my military explorers get firsthand training with that in preparation for any kind of disaster every single year, and allow also my students too at the high school level.
By the way, the CERT training here, which I've had in this town, takes place right here at the San Jacinto Community Center.
Yes.
It's the 2-day class. It's free. You get this wonderful survival backpack with about $50 or $75 worth of equipment in there. I mean, it is a deal. So, and they have another version for seniors that don't want to take the 2-day kind of strenuous class. That's an 8-hour class too.
Yeah, my class was a whole 40-hour, 5-day training program, along with a weekend countertop exercise where we got a chance to actually go out and practice our skills.
Right.
And that certification allows me to train other people in community emergency response
Sounds like
training.
you could bring a lot of good to the community in that.
That's what
area.
I would like to do. I really would like to do that.
And Christopher Ruiz, with all your experience and years on the city council, you must have seen a few disasters come and go. And what has your experience taught you about how to better handle these things?
Well, first of all, it's funny that you asked this question, because when we first moved here, my husband trained with CERT because it was so important to us to protect our family, to protect our neighbors. And one of the things that I think that we learned during COVID was, first of all, get toilet paper. Apparently, there's going to be a dry run on toilet paper. Second of all, Clorox wipes, got to have that. But the food supply chain may be broken, and it may be that we can't get food to this valley. So we need to make sure that we have a supply of food to last us, things that are going to last for a while. We need to, one of the other things that I've noticed is during COVID is that we need to make sure we check on our family and friends and our neighbors. Some of these people are elderly, some of them are just, friends that we think, hey, every day they're going to be fine, but the reality is maybe they're not so fine. Maybe we need to stop by and follow
injured.
up. Right, exactly. Maybe we need to check on our friends and family. We need to make sure that we have other communication methods, because communication lines may be down. We've seen some serious disasters here in this community, but one thing that we have seen more than anything is that our friends and neighbors, our community steps forward and we step up and we help each other. And that's the best part of this community. So we need to focus on things that we can control. And the things that we can't control, we have to deal with them. And we have to just focus on what we can deal with, what we need to do at the time. Do we have food? Do we have water? Do we have shelter? Does our neighbors have the same thing? Do we have the supplies that we need? And right now is the time to build the supplies that you need to maintain at least several days worth of food. But remember, like I said, that supply chain, if it's a really bad earthquake, if we're going to have the real big one, that supply chain, the food supply chain may be down. And if that's down, exactly, how are we going to get out? What's a plan route? And an escape route. My dad was 82nd Airborne attached to CIA. And so we always had an escape plan planned. Literally, no matter where we were, our family was everywhere. No matter where we were, we knew there was a point that we would meet up at a certain location, and we would wait for the others to get there. And that's what we need to do, is have an evacuation plan, have plans. Do we do fire plans, when we have a fire, when we're kids? Remember when we were kids and we all did fire plans? We need to make sure we think about these things and make sure that if we have elderly family, friends, neighbors, we check on them and bring them, help them get the need that the things that they need, because it's so important. When you're alone, it doesn't matter what age you are, if you're alone, we need to be the ones stepping up. Our family, friends, and neighbors, we need to step up and make sure everybody's safe and secure.
Now, the last time, just to add a question here, the last time I'm involved with the senior community center over here, and we wanted a speaker on disaster recovery, so we turned to the city, and we found out it's a gentleman in code enforcement. Andrew, somebody I can't remember, but he was a code enforcement guy. So he came over and he had all the plans and everything. So the city, it looked like the city could take some direct action to help everybody get organized.
Yeah,
I think that is a priority.
I think it is, but I think even more important, because the city is just the city, right? I think that we have many more churches out there than we have a city hall, right?
Yeah.
So our churches need to step forward. Our churches need to work together and to coordinate. It used to be when there was a natural disaster, the first thing you did was go to the church. So our churches need to get back to that, being essential. They are an essential part of our community, and we need to make sure that our pastors know what to do, that our congregation knows what to do, that we know what to look for and how to help. And if it's something violent, we really need to get the CERT program going again, and we need people to know how to react. If there's and we've seen it over and over again, if there's an electrical wire down, stay the heck away from it.
Right.
Stay away from it, because people run out, they see a family member in danger, and they've run out and got themselves killed. So those are the kind of things that we need to train on. We need to make sure that we have a proper training for as many residents as we can. And so we really need to look into that. I'm glad you brought up the fact that it hasn't been going on. So I think it's something that we should work on.
The trouble with CERT is apathy takes over, it builds up,
Right.
and then apathy takes over, and it kind of dies out, and then everyone goes, oh, wait a minute, we're not doing enough, and then it takes off again. So we're sort of in a low cycle.
Isn't that the way human nature is, though?
It seems to be.
So we need to stay on top of it.
It's a sine wave.
Right, we need to stay on top of it.
So Mike, what would a treasurer's perspective be for disaster recovery and preparation?
Well, let me explain to you this way. You have your household budget. You run that household budget. That's what I have experience with. Well, actually, my wife has more experience with it than I do, but that's beside the point. We have a household budget we run. You get a flat tire, you blow a transmission out, your kid needs something for school, you got to take an emergency trip. Those are all emergencies, and if you don't have planned contingencies for those emergencies, they can blow your budget out of whack. I'll say this, we moved here when I was a kid, when I was 10 years old, right after the flood happened in 1980, 80, right? Okay, we moved here in June. There's only two things I've ever seen in this valley that have really, we've had earthquakes, but I mean, they've hit in landers. They really haven't done a lot of damage here in the valley yet. Being on some fault lines, it's bound to happen. But the two things I've seen wind and I've seen water. And the water, the last one that we had, I lived over on Paul and Esplanade when I was a kid, and it brought down an over 100-year-old eucalyptus tree. So water has really damaging effects. But that being said, when Russ was mayor and we had the city council in there, breached the levee down by Sanderson, The city got right in there, got it fixed. I don't recall it really taking a toll on our emergency funds. And we planned ahead for it. It's what good cities do with their money. They plan ahead. They make sure they plan for those contingencies.
Part of your fund is for disasters.
Right.
Great. Any last minutes of
We-
advice for those of us whose 401ks aren't doing so well?
I don't know, man. I watched the stock market today and it was down, what, 400? Holy cow. All right, that's all I want to talk about. Now you want me to be depressed.
You get a Kansas King trip.
Yeah.
Well, I think we did a good job with our panel here on disaster recovery and preparedness, and looking at our list, this may be probably for citizens of San Jacinto, maybe one of the most critical issues for everyone to take advantage of. I hope you've taken notes and think about your own homes and what you can do to make them safer and how you're going to react to disasters, and come to the city council and ask questions about it. But we're going to move on to another important area, which has to do with roads and facilities, and the roads we drive on, the benches we sit on, the signs we look at. And we're going to start off with Andrew Kayek, again from Assembly. From a state assemblyman's perspective, what do you think would be what are your priorities in that area?
So you're asking what the priorities are to improve our infrastructure? That's what you're asking? So this is something that's actually in my sweet spot. Literally, when I jumped on city council, I understood that the highways and our corridors were really the key to our economy. Growing up in Southern California, it was hard not to see Route 66 and all those small towns that were with those. And then obviously when the interstates came in, how other cities flourished and those withered, right? And then also being on the Highway Commission for the last 10 years, I've come to understand that our investment in the Inland Empire has been to connect our corridors to other counties, right? Los Angeles, Orange County, Ventura, San Diego, so commuters could go to jobs, right? We didn't have the jobs here, so commuters had to leave. Well, that chapter has closed. The new chapter that we're going into is one of investment within the Inland Empire and the Riverside County, and specifically in the 42nd Assembly District. We're bringing jobs here. People don't have to commute. You see the warehouses, the distribution centers, manufacturing coming back in. And the LA Basin is pretty full now. And we've been expanding the 60 freeway through Mineral Valley, including truck climbing lanes, so that trucks could get over to the 10 freeway and get out to the Coachella Valley and the high desert region. This is really the only corridor from the west side to the east side of the Inland Empire, and it's a key part of our goods movement corridor that we talk about nationally. What does that really mean? Well, it means that the ports of Long Beach and LA are where the key imports and exports for really the nation come in and out of. And that goes to our trucks and our train, right, our rail that comes in and out. We're the heart that feeds the rest of the nation, and so what happens here has really high importance at the state level and at the federal level. It's something I've championed for 10 years, is bringing those dollars back. We see those improvements on the 91, the 15, the 10 out in the desert, the new overpasses that we have on the 10 freeway, the 111. But what's interesting is we're coming to a key time of grabbing more of those dollars. This is why you need a leader like myself that understands and knows how to advocate and partner with others to bring those dollars back to our region. Why is right now a key time? Is because of the recession. Whenever there's a recession, we look at, and I mean federally and statewide, we look at ways to create jobs and to improve our community. And that's why you keep hearing keywords like infrastructure bills, the discussion, right? Federally and statewide. And they agree on spending X amount of dollars, and there's advocacy for districts and states to bring those dollars back to their region. We are one of the most important because we're the goods movement corridor. And so we usually always get a prime position. Back in 2013, I advocated with Senator Dianne Feinstein to bring $500 million of TIFIA funding to the 9115 freeway corridor. And we have brought literally tens, if not hundreds of $1 millions to our rail infrastructure and road infrastructure. So we're coming to a key time where leadership and advocacy to improve our corridors is vital so we can bring those jobs here. People don't have to commute. It helps to reduce all the pollution, right, if they're not commuting. And it's better for our economy when people work here, and it's also better for quality of life. You know, all these hardworking families that have to drive and commute to go find jobs, you know, they're hours away from their family or their young children, and to not have to do that, to be able to work in your own community, it's quality of life. It's important. So pushing this forward is one of my highest priorities. I'm the leader for that sort of thing.
Great, well, thank you very much. That's a good, broad perspective from a statewide level, bring it down to our district. Brian, you've just completed a 7,000-mile trek across the country in your campaign van with your amazing children that are here with us today. And I'm just wondering, seeing everything at different road infrastructure, signage, and the way traffic is handled around the country, now you're only back here for a day or two. Do you bring back any thoughts or ideas that maybe we could incorporate here? What kind of ideas do you have for improving our infrastructure?
Yeah, so one of the ideas I have is fix it. I can't be a person that just say, let me just drive down a street that has potholes and not want to fix it. There's a resident on the corner of Esplanade. I was talking to him, and you know, his daughter goes and plays right on the corner where a person drives in, and all he's asking for is the city to put a speed bump, maybe about 10 yards, you know, when you turn around, because people come flying around the corner, people, you know, driving in and going to a residential area. Yeah, driving down Esplanade where his house is at, coming in, it's not too much residential right there, but as soon as you turn in, you know, talking to a lot of residents, a lot of speeding going through the area. People are asking for speed bumps. People are asking for updated, you know, stop signs, you know, putting stop signs in different areas. You know, I think when it comes down to politicians, listening to Phil Ayala when he said, you know, he's not a politician. And I think sometimes when we run, you know, especially during election season, we get comfortable talking to people. But then after that, between those 4 years, we stop talking to the residents and stop listening to what they're asking for when it comes down to the safety and the community. Some of the simple things is, you know, putting, you know, stop signs in areas where people are flying down at. You know, some of the cities that I visited, like I said, I visited over 14 states in the last 10 days, and areas where it's high traffic. You know, last year my nephew was killed in a community where there were no speed bumps. And that's what his mother down in San Diego is advocating for. And so before we lose a child life up here in the city of San Jacinto, and especially down the Ramona Expressway, you know, we really have to look into, you know, changing some of the, you know, the traffic area, putting better stop signs and putting, you know, better signs up that's going to allow people to drive and feel safe. You know, I love the idea of what Mayor Kayek is talking about, the infrastructure on the highway. But when I drive down some of the areas in San Jacinto and potholes and, you know, cracked signs and, you know, faded signs and outdated signs, when you listen to some of the people in the community, they're asking for small things. They're not asking for big things. And I think that when it comes down to, you know, making people feel good about the city, nobody want to drive down the street and see our city ran down. You know, it bothered me after the Black Lives Matter protests in Hemet, everybody start putting boards up on the wall because it made the community look old. It made the community look ran down. People start boarding up all their, you know, cities because they didn't feel safe. And so, you know, I think that it's so important that we just fix it. You know, it's not a, you know, negotiated thing. You know, make the ride feel safe. You know, let people feel safe driving down the streets, knowing that their kids can play without getting hit by a car.
Well, you might want to talk to him about the budget for that.
Well,
I'm sure those potholes cost some money.
Well, yeah, it's good that you said that because, you know, I was listening to Crystal Ruiz when she made a mention about churches. And, you know, even beyond churches, you know, you find out that San Jacinto and Hemet has a lot of churches out here. There's a lot of nonprofits, not just churches. There are a lot of nonprofits in this community. And I think that to be a nonprofit, I think that we need to step up to the plate. I'm a pastor of a church, too, as well. And I think, you know, adopt a block, adopt a highway, you know, getting individuals who are getting a lot of tax-free money step up and help fund some of these projects. Don't just put it on the city's budget and put it on the finances. If we're a nonprofit, we're there to offset the money that's not coming in. COVID-19 hit this community, hit our city real bad, but, you know, some of the other businesses are still thriving. So, you know, it's going to truly take a community to build this up. You know, one of my campaign statements is, you know, pick up the part of the city you walk on. And so if you really care about this city, you know, invest in it even from, a business perspective. And so working with different nonprofits all throughout the city to say, hey, let's help revitalize the city together.
Great, let's move on to Russ. Now, Russ, a year ago, you and I sat over there at the community center in one of those long, torturous planning sessions.
Right, working on the general plan.
We were at the same table, right? And we put all these different colored things up on the charts and everything. And I remember a few things came out at the top that people didn't like. Probably the one that stuck to my mind the most is the 5 points. They didn't like 5 points, remember that?
Yeah.
And there was a few other things they didn't like. In terms of things that are sort of an irritant in the city and everything, you think the city has a responsibility to look into those?
Sure, Dennis. Well, what we were working on is the 2040 general plan. Every few years, the city needs to either review or every now and then redo their general plan, which is the master plan for land use throughout the entire city. That's how we come up with our industrial zones, our residential zones, our commercial zones, and our walking paths and all of the other amenities. That's really how we lay those out. And we are 2/3 of the way finally done with that process. And we should be taking the sheet off the new general plan, hopefully spring of next year. And what that's going to do is that's going to actually show some changes and responses to community input, like you said. Between the 3 sessions we had at the community center, the session we had at there was a fair at San Jacinto Elementary, and so we took input from the community at that as well, because we understand some people don't drive or maybe they work at night, and so coming down to the kids' school for a thing, it's a good way to reach more people. And so we've done lots of online input, and of course they come to the meetings and tell us things. And so we are really listening to the community. Now, I do want to respond to my friend Brian's suggestion about speed humps. Unfortunately, not to sound like a politician, because anybody who knows me knows I'm not, but speed humps can be expensive, dangerous, and they also reduce response time for emergency response. So if you have a bunch of speed humps, that means that your fire engine has to slow way down, and your ambulance has to slow way down for each one of those. And just a few months ago, we had somebody actually hit a speed hump in the Cove, lose control of their vehicle, and go into a tree and unfortunately pass away. And so between the cost and then there's certain state and county regulations about it can't be this far from a major road. I would love to be able to just, anybody who wants a speed hump in front of their house, be like, okay, give us a check for $25,000 and we'll do it, because that's about what they cost. But there's a lot that goes into whether or not you can have speed humps. There's speed humps in my neighborhood. I personally don't really like them, because I see people all the time flying through, they hit them, and then I've seen people end up on the sidewalk. And heaven forbid that there's a kid on the sidewalk when that
Or
happens.
the
That
front
just
end alignment center now.
Well, that's their fault for going too fast in the first place, so I'm good with that.
Speed bumps don't stop stupidity.
Well, how many wrecks have you guys responded to for Hemet News that it was a speed bump or something, and just it's horrible.
Well,
And so there's 2 sides to that one.
I want to throw another piece out here. Last week, up where I live, we've had 2 fatalities on smaller roads. 2 people went off the side of the road. The first guy went into a tree, died, burned up, started a huge fire. The second guy, just a couple days ago, just east of the casino, hit a telephone pole, knocked out all the power. Eddie, how far was that?
Right. There was another wreck too, Dennis, 3 weeks ago there.
Yeah. So, do we have any thoughts about those telephone poles? Because when they first put those telephone poles up, we thought, man, that's a death trap waiting to happen. And somebody said, well, it's way too expensive to bury those telephone poles.
Well, undergrounding not the big regional transmission ones, the ones that look like the Langoliers, but just the regular ones that you see, it costs almost $300,000 per pole to underground.
Per pole. Okay.
And so what we like to do is, as part of a commercial or residential development, that's one of the mitigations that the developer has to do to improve the city overall, is they have to underground all the power that is around their site. And so that leaves things looking nice and safer. But For the city to just go on a undergrounding spree
Yeah.
just wouldn't really be feasible
We'd
because
have
of
to
the
consult
cost.
our treasurer to have it.
Right. But for example, the safety project we just did down Sanderson with federal highway grant money, where we put the barrels in front of the poles, because those barrels are for safety. If somebody goes off the road and hits those barrels, it's going to slow them down considerably before they actually get to the pole, and those save lives. And those have already saved at least 4 lives, according to our fire chief. Because we've had, well, yeah, it is, and it's a lot better for the family of the people who've already hit them too.
Well, that sounds like a significant improvement that we're making.
It is, and it didn't cost the city a dime because our staff does a darn good job of getting out there, finding out where funding and
Grants are-
projects are that we can do and make other people pay for it.
Okay, and from a military standpoint, again, General Eisenhower, well, how would you approach the infrastructure challenges in this city?
Well, I think we're all on the same consensus here that safety is the priority. Safety, safety, safety. And noticing as Russ was talking about, noticing those barrels going out there, and seeing many, many Hollywood movies where cars crash into barrels, and that slows them down before they actually crash into the pole, and it does save lives. And obviously, we've had a lot of power outages, and Sanderson, one of our main arteries, blocked off and cut off from Beaumont and any other northern part of Riverside County because there's accidents and whatnot down Sanderson, which is a main thoroughway. But I'm going to have to go back to my point on safety. I think as a resident of San Jacinto, when I drive down the city, I want to feel proud of where I live at. I want to feel proud of the streets that I'm driving on. I don't want to be concerned about as Dennis was saying, if my alignment's going to be off tomorrow, and then I have to go to the shop next week, and there's $300, $400, or $1,000 check that I have to invest to fix my car. I know our community members here in our city. I know we have a lot of elderly people in our city. I know we have a lot of senior citizens who have mobility issues in our city. I've traveled to Mexico, and my wife, being disabled, who has arthritis, who sometimes has to get around on a little scooter, I know how difficult it is to negotiate traveling around potholes or cracks in the road or just non-accessible routes, and then have to jeopardize your safety to avoid getting hit by cars, turning corners. There's so many possibilities and so many different opportunities we have to actually make that difference and make it safer for all of us, and especially for my wife too, who I've had to help her lift up the wheelchair onto the curb just to avoid being in the street. I was driving down Cottonwood today, and I went to the dry cleaners to drop off some clothes, and I noticed that a street sign, a stop sign, was knocked over on the corner of Lyon and Cottonwood. And I was thinking to myself, wow, that just happened, like probably last night. 30 minutes on my way back home, one of the workers were working on it. They were digging out the little the little post diggers, and they were replanting the sign and getting it repaired. And that's an awesome contribution and a credit to our city. The workers and the service members that are out there working and restoring that, and that I just give many accolades to our council members who are sitting here with us today, and being able to enforce that sort of policy. But safety, 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 and making our roads better, I think can be a good.
Does graffiti and graffiti eradication fit into this story here?
I think it goes back to the feeling, like I mentioned before, the feeling proud of the city you live in. Yeah, there's going to be graffiti. Yeah, there's going to be tagging. Yeah, there's going to be just regular vandalism. And there's certain things you just simply can't stop. But the things we can get under control, having more community members get actively engaged with the city, being able to report that information if you see something, say something, and getting our awesome public works employees out there and getting it taken care of immediately and as quickly as possible, because it brings a positive and or a negative image to our city.
Supposedly, the faster you erase it, the less it's going to come back, from what I understand. In terms
That's
of
true, and
the-
that's why we eradicate as much graffiti as we can. We have we have an actual dedicated member of our staff that every morning goes out and eradicates graffiti.
Great. And Phil, one other question, because you seem to know a little bit about this disability. For some of us that don't quite understand what these yellow plates with the bumps all over them are.
ADA ramps.
And the corners and that, I'm practically stumbling over these things. Can you tell us a little bit about what those are for?
First off, my wife, Denise, if you're watching, I know you hate them. She hates them to death. But I know they have a safety factor. They're to prevent roll-offs backwards or forward or different directions, especially when it comes to wheelchairs, motorized scooters, or even regular scooters, especially going up and down inclines and declines. But my wife hates them because her disability, she can't bend her knees, so she has difficulty trying to negotiate them. So sometimes they put her off balance. So again, they could be good and they could also
Well, tell her I
be
agree
bad.
with it. Sometimes you put me off balance too. So.
Yes, definitely.
Crystal Ruiz, what do you have to add to the infrastructure story here in San Jacinto? What thoughts could you?
Well, I think that the city of San Jacinto has done a fine job being proactive. I know we see a lot of roads that need to be repaired. The thing is about that is they have to be on the map to be planned out, and we have planned pretty much all of them. So as you see, weather change. We do a lot of it during good weather. Sometimes if it's too hot, they adjust it to the time of year. So you'll see us doing road work and road repair jobs throughout the different times of the year where it's more conducive to be done. But most of them, we sat down and worked on map after map going, hey, this street here, this street here. As council members, we like to drive our streets. We want to know what the folks are seeing. So we'll drive down the streets and go, hey, this, and we'll take a photo of it and we'll send it over to the city manager and go, oh, that's already on the list. And so it's interesting to see that, when people are thinking about things like repairing repainting maybe street signs or doing work on the trees and trimming the trees, they're already queued up to be taken care of. The problem is that we need more city staff, and that the bottom line is we really don't have enough city staff to take care of everything that we've been doing. Remember, when I was mayor the first time, we cut everybody and cut all the fluff out of the budget. So there's no wiggle room for San Jacinto. We are spot on exactly where we need to be. However, we need more bodies, and in order to do more bodies, we have to have more income. So we have to work on things like bringing in retail, bringing in housing. This Measure V that we're going to talk about a little later is really important. So we need to pre-plan, and we pre-plan 5, 10 years, 20 years. We look at these maps and go, okay, we know that this street here is going to need work, in 5 years, so we need to get this on the map now so we know ahead of time. So a lot of things that you see, if you see a pothole, definitely call the city. There's a number there. You can even go through the city website. Call the city, the city know, let any one of the council members know. We shoot it over to the city manager, and then they take care of it. The one thing that I do want to address, I know that speed bumps and stop signs and everything, those are really important. The thing about this is that it takes a long time to get these things processed. And you have to go through things like they test the number of cars that go through an area, how fast they're going. They run all these tests, and these tests don't go, okay, we're going to test it this weekend and it's gone. It has to have a certain period of time to be tested. So you have to understand that when we put up a stop sign somewhere, we don't just, I like that place for a stop sign and I want to put it there. That's not how it works. You have to justify that according to the rules and regulations, not only of the city, but the rules and regulations of the state of California. So we have to comply with certain things, and we have to produce certain evidence that says, hey, this is definitely needed here. If we put speed bumps in places that are not needed, they do cause accidents. They can cause death. If we put a stop sign in a place that's unexpected, it can do the same thing. So it's not, when you're on city council, you need to be aware of the fact that things don't just get fixed overnight. We don't, we all have these great ideas. We all go, hey, yeah, I'd like to do that. But it doesn't work like that. You have to follow certain guidelines, and you have to comply with certain things. And there are certain funds, i.e. leading into him, there are certain funds. Yeah, he's like, I don't know this one yet. Leading into certain funds that are restricted. Measure A funds we use a lot for roads, road construction, fixing those potholes, fixing the roads. One of the things that a couple of things that I've been on is I've been on the Transportation Committee for SCAG, which is Southern California Association of Governments, WRCOG's Executive Committee, regional RCA, which is Regional Conservation Authority, Riverside County, SANDAG, San Diego Department or Council of Governments. Each of these has transportation part, and we all are learning about what we can do to connect from here to there to make it a better ride for us, to make it so that it's not so doggone long for us to go in the morning to get to our jobs before we get back home and we're too tired to go to the grocery store, right? We've been working, Andrew, Russ, we've been working for years on the train. And how close are we? We're like, that's close, that's close. And can you imagine getting the train back here in San Jacinto? I haven't wants it, but it's coming here.
Back?
Back. We used to have it here.
You had a train?
Yes, we did, and we will have it again. We have the right-of-way. We're one of the few places that has the right-of-way, and we've been working very diligently on getting that here. Because when that comes here, even if COVID's over and our jobs end up, a lot of businesses decide they want to go back to the office, which is going to be, highly unlikely, but when it does, people will be able to jump on the train right here to go to Riverside or Corona or LA. Some of these people drive. So it's really important for us to look at the overall infrastructure, look at transportation in general, look at not just the roads and the street signs and the speed bumps, but how do we get to work? How do we commute?
Let me ask you a question about this. I read something the other day that kind of struck me, is that we are a destination city. We're not on a big highway that goes through.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of go, you come here and then you turn around and go back. How does that affect transportation planning when you're at the end of the line?
We're not the end of the line. We are the up-and-coming place. We're the oldest new city, up-and-coming city
I mean,
in
terms of
Riverside County.
traffic flow, come out here. And
Yeah, we have Highway 79 realignment. We have Mid-County Parkway coming in, and now we're going to have the trains. So we are going to be a key point here. It's not just a destination. The truth is that with the 31.2 average age for citizens, families are growing up here. This is the place to raise your family. It used to be Irvine, it's now San Jacinto. And you know what? Hemet is going to lift up with us. As we pick up, they will pick up. We are blessed to have Sebulba right next to us. What an awesome partner they are. There's jobs there at the casino. Look at everything. They're bringing huge shopping center right across the street over there. So Lucenio Village, Marketplace, right?
Main Street and
Right,
Main and Ramona Expressway.
Ramona Expressway.
Expressway, yeah.
Yeah, and we'll have a hotel right across the street there. There's so much business coming in here that we're going to see people working here, living here, playing here. This is going to be the place to be, and it is already picking up. You'll notice that your home prices have increased, and they keep going up. That's a good sign. We really are the destination place to be, and it's really important for us to get those Mid-County Parkway finally done and Highway 79 realignment done and get that train in here so that for those who will have to work elsewhere, they'll be able to get there and get back home to be with their families.
That's great. So we're going to have a freeway that's going to tie us into 215 where we will hop on the freeway here and
Well,
Mid-County Parkway
Mid-County
ties into
Parkway.
215.
Mhm.
They're moving dirt right now on the interchange, actually, at
Right.
Placentia.
that is great news.
Mhm.
And of course, the big question is how are we going to pay for all this? And we know Mike's got this all figured out. But Mike, you have a couple comments now, or do you want to fall on your sword later?
So thanks, buddy. My feeling is I get the best of both worlds. So I work from home for one job that I have, and the
Yeah.
other job I have, I actually get to drive out to the communities. Used to be that it'd take me a half an hour to get to Moreno Valley, and it'd take me 10 minutes to get across town. Now it takes me a half an hour to get across town and about a half an hour to get to Moreno Valley. So traffic is picking up. But that being said, we have come a long way from where we were a few years ago. I mean, even in the last 8 years, the city's come a long ways. The monies are appropriated, like Crystal was talking about, some of the measures we passed, some of the propositions, whatever. Those monies are set in stone, and they have to go to these certain projects.
Do you manage the measures? Do you manage the raise money?
Oh,
Is that one of your
no.
jobs?
That's my job is to oversee that. All I do is overlook of what they do. what
So
our
you're the
managers do.
checker.
Right,
Mhm.
right. And I report to the council and let them know what monies we have.
And you have certain standards that you have to adhere to when you're
Oh,
doing
yeah.
that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm responsible to the taxpayer. I'm responsible to the city council.
State auditor?
State auditors, all that fun stuff. It's exciting, let me tell you.
I'm sure you look forward to the state auditor reports.
Well, that's why I'm trusting that the previous councils have brought in folks that are on top of stuff. From what everything I've gathered and studied, they are. So they're on top-notch guys.
Okay, and then Krista mentioned a little while ago the new measure that's on the ballot. You want to just basically give us a quick definition of that?
Measure V, it's all about public safety. You know, what's interesting is years ago, 2006, 2008, every single city in Riverside County did this 1 penny tax.
Sure.
Now, when we go shopping, we go to Hemet, we go to Temecula, Murrieta, Menifee, Riverside. Wherever we go, we pay that penny, and that penny brings in millions of dollars a year for those cities. And guess what they get to spend it on? Public safety. We sat here because 2008 was kind of a rough year here. They had some problems. 4 out of the 5 council members were replaced, and they had a big job to do to clean up after the problems, right? It wasn't the time they felt to do that measure. And really, we weren't as prepared as we should be. We have a city manager, Rob Johnson, who is probably the best thing that we could have done was hire Rob Johnson for this city. The amount of business that he's brought in, the amount of new homes he's brought in, he knows exactly how to do it. But he also looked at our taxes and he went, why are you lower than every single person in Riverside County? And so he brought it to us saying, hey, you guys should have done this way back years ago. Millions and millions of dollars is, you know, we could have had in the coffer, but and actually had police on the street and fire on the fire, you know, stations and trucks, and we could have had that the entire time, but we weren't aware of it. So it took a fresh set of eyes to come in here and take a look at what we really needed to do. The important thing people need to understand is you already pay that penny. You already shop elsewhere. The difference is they get to keep the money.
Yeah.
If we pay it here, if we put Measure V on and we do follow up and approve Measure V, people who are visiting our city, the 2 million square feet of retail that they're going to come in to visit, the gas stations, the food, the restaurants, all of that will contribute to police officers on the streets, fire department, water, safe water. All these things are really important. They're really important to us. And now we know how it has to be fixed. And we're relying on the citizens like you to understand the truth of the matter. The truth of the matter is your safety is important. My safety is important. Our children's safety is important. Our neighbors and friends, your grandparents. Don't forget that their lives matter. And that 1 penny is going to bring enough money to get deputies on the streets and to protect our citizens, to clean up our community. That's what it's for. So it's really important. Let's do our part. Let's make sure we're not the only ones paying it. And let's do what every other city in Riverside County has already done and keep the money here. Because they were smart enough to do it. We can do this. We can keep the money here, pay for public safety. Literally, people visiting our community will help pay for public safety. So that's my 2 cents.
Well, that's a good definition. Now, Phil, y'all, do you have anything to add there? Are you opposed to it? Do you support it?
Oh, no, I'm definitely for it, and just like Crystal had stated, and I think I've stated this since day one, I want to keep our businesses here. I want to keep our money here. I want to keep people shopping here. She's right. Crystal is right. When we shop, we go down to Florida and we go eat there. We go down to Florida to go to shop there. We have Walmart on the east side of town, and we also have a Walmart on the west side of town, just a little bit south of us. But I was really shocked when I heard about the only city in the entire county that doesn't have that 1 cent tax. Just thinking about the possibilities that we can have. And I know everyone's thinking taxes, taxes, taxes. We don't want any more taxes. No more taxes. But we can't look at it that way. We can't look at it as more and more taxes. We're doing it as Crystal just stated, we're doing it for our safety, for your safety, for my safety, for our kids' safety. All the different things that we need. We have a safe community already. We have great law enforcement that are supporting us, that are taking care of us out in the streets. We have some awesome people that are in that public safety area, and we want to keep building that, and we want to make sure that we stay safe, because when we are safe, we feel more comfortable, we feel more proud of our city. Having knowing the fact that when we go shopping and we're spending that money elsewhere, when it could be given here, it's really dissatisfying to learn about. And I hope that everyone does vote yes on Measure V for our city.
Okay.
Keeps the money here in San Jacinto.
Now, Russ, I know you probably know a lot about this. You probably wrote the book on this. I noticed that the website has a lot of detailed, one might almost say tedious, charts in there from surveys, slicing
Sure.
and dicing every way that you possibly can go, that more or less explains the rationale behind it. Would you recommend that the average citizen go to that website?
Sure, if they've got questions about Measure V, if they wonder what the results of the survey we did, because we went to the public and we said, if the city has extra money, where do you want us to spend it? And they told us that they want more public safety, they want more fire, they want some solutions for the homeless, that they want us to improve general quality of life. And so those are really the things that we're working on. And, you know, the knee-jerk reaction for a lot of folks in our area is to compare us with another place that has a general sales tax measure. But what I want to remind those people, we are not them. Just because someone had a bad experience somewhere else doesn't mean that they're going to have a bad experience here. So, you know, if you were in 10th grade and you finally started dating a girl and she cheated on you and broke your heart, do you never have another relationship again in life and never trust anyone? Or do you say, maybe she was in a place that she did bad things and I need to learn to trust and be a little more careful? Well, I can tell everyone, you can trust your San Jacinto Council. I want to throw a couple numbers from those tedious numbers out for everybody to understand.
Okay.
San Jacinto residents every year spend $550 million outside the city. $550 million. Of those $550 million, over $400 million are already taxed at that 1%. So there's that to consider. Also, of sales tax collected in San Jacinto, 33 to 35% of our retail dollars spent in town are spent in town from people who do not live in town. So if the city were to collect, say, $3 million on the new measure, only $2 million of that would actually be out of San Jacinto pockets. The other $1 million would be people coming here to play at the casino or see an awesome play at Ramona or do something really cool at one of our shopping centers or one of our cultural centers or come enjoy all of our parks.
Shoot some paintball.
Exactly. We've got a lot of really cool reasons to come to San Jacinto. We are a destination. And so that matters. And as we continue to grow, we will grow better. Again, Crystal mentioned Irvine. Irvine has one of the highest tax rates in the state. Their sales tax, I believe, is 9.25%. They have a utility users tax at 5.5%. They have high property taxes, and every year they get voted the best city to live. It's because they have.
We loved it.
It's because they have that money available to spend to make it the best city to live.
Let me drill down on one issue that has to do with that other city, which is you could set this up for just fire and police.
No, it's a general
You could set
tax.
this up for,
Let me explain why. Our state is backwards,
all right.
and to have a general tax, which means it's just general fund dollars, non-restricted, it takes 50% plus one vote to pass. If we were to restrict it, which we would like to do actually, that takes a 2/3 vote, and so the mandate to pass your tax is much higher for a restricted lockbox tax than one that you can turn around and do anything with. And so only for that reason did we make it a general tax? We would love it to be a lockbox
But it
tax.
turned out that that other city was desperately trying to get that money to solve a big,
I don't really want to talk about them other than the fact
So I
that
think
your
the
your
fact that
experience
you-
may be different.
I think the fact that you're spreading it across a lot more options is good.
Well, and I
Good
think,
strategy
though,
for the
that
city.
as the city council, and as, hopefully Russ and I will be reelected, Alonzo, Joel, all of us are committed to putting that money where the citizens wanted it put.
Right.
In public safety, fire, one of the top things that surprised me was water. Water safety. Our wells are in serious trouble. And so they want us to be fiscally responsible, but they gave us a list. And those, to me, are mandates that they want us to follow. And as long as we're on council, it's going to go exactly to where it is.
Yep.
We believe that, you're not going to shake us from doing the
So
right
it's
thing.
citizens directed.
We're
Yeah,
sitting on the
absolutely.
money right now for a brand new fire engine to add to Station 25 to decrease our response times. But we don't have the money for the 4 firefighters to staff it. So with Measure V, one of the first things we're going to be able to do
Staff
is
it.
order that fire engine and go ahead and put those firefighters on it. And our response times will resultingly go much lower, and people who need critical aid will actually be more likely to live or not be as seriously,
And they actually measure these fire stations, how much time it takes
Right.
to get to place, and every time you improve something, they'll tell you, well, it's going to go from 7 minutes to 6 minutes
Exactly.
to respond to a certain area, which if you're having a stroke is a big deal.
That 1 minute,
Every minute
is
counts.
a huge deal. 1 minute is a huge deal. And it's
Mr. Hawkins,
Yes, sir.
what ideas do you have in this area of taxing people to make the city better? Are you for it, or are you against it? Do you have a unique approach to it that you'd like to bring to the table?
Yeah, well, I'm definitely not for continued taxing people. I'm in support of the measure because we definitely need public safety as it's going across the board. We're already spending that money for us, so there's no use of me bringing that statement up. It's kind of like a common sense type statement, especially when you hear about the amount of money that's being spent other places. I just took a trip and spent money in 14 different states, and their taxes, so it didn't matter. I mean, I did love seeing gas at $1.49. That was beautiful. So I was wishing I could have brought a couple of those 50-gallon drums back with me.
But all those
know.
toll stations you went through.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
yeah, kind of get the money back. So I definitely see the need for it, because it's either one way or the other. People are saying, I want to move out of San Jacinto. Well, if you move, you're going to pay it anyway. Then people say, I want to live here. If you want to live here, you want to live in peace. You want to, it was beautiful seeing other cities, people jogging out at night. I think that was probably one of the most amazing things, actually seeing people 11, 12 o'clock, jogging with a dog and not with a cane or with a baseball bat. They just felt peaceful and felt safe. And so, how else are we going to get there? I know people hate hearing the term tax. Hearing, increase in tax, increase in money. And, going back to what Crystal was saying, I think it's important for the citizens here in San Jacinto to know what's going on, to be able to follow the paper trail, to be able to see where money is being allocated, to know that, these things are being worked on. I think probably one of the biggest missing parts in communication is, letting people know, hey, it's not like we're overlooking some of the issues that are happening. They're getting addressed, but if there's no money allocated for it, then it's impossible to be able to, take care of it. I know, talking with the sheriff's department and, significantly understaffed, and so knowing that much right there, and if people are desiring public safety, like I don't want to do anything without really getting the voice of the people moving forward. That's my biggest thing. As an elected official in city council, I think it's important for us to stay connected to the community, stay talking to the people. The money, the measure may get voted, but then still, take a consensus. Why have to always just do it on election? Get consensus of the people month in and month out. Twice a month, we have meetings, with city council, but rarely meetings with the city itself to get their input moving forward. And I think that that's so important too. That way they'll have the confidence in city council. As Crystal was saying, you know, individuals doing a good job. But how would you know that if you're never connected with the city and connected and knowing? And that way they'll trust the decision that city council is making. Like if they say, hey, vote for Measure V, it's not oh, this is a political thing. You're like, no, I'm trusting that Measure V is good for the city. And that's what I want to hope to, you know, make sure that that's restored, is the integrity that people trust the council.
And get your passion.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now we're going to go up to 10,000 feet here to the 42 level of rarefied atmosphere. And Andrew, from your perspective as a state man looking at our district and this city, what is your opinion, your thoughts about this measure?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's really simple. I have always taken pride in representing the local people. That's who's always supporting me in my campaign. It's individuals, it's small businesses, it's the community voice. It's not party politics. And resoundingly across the district, public safety is one of those issues that's not a partisan issue. People strongly care about their police and their fire in the 42nd Assembly District, just hands down. They want to have response time if somebody has a medical emergency, to know that somebody's going to be there to take care of them. They want to know they have a good quality of life for their family, or their children, or their grandparents in the community. You know, unlike my opponent, he has resoundingly voted over and over again to early release of felons, shorten their parole time, allow them to vote when they're on parole. He just voted for SB 145, the pedophile bill that allows additional acts, pedophile, you know, to be added, right, on top of that. And that's why the Riverside Sheriff's Department gives him a very, very poor grade, right, resoundingly, because he doesn't back public safety. And to me, when we talk about a local community deciding that they want to pass a sales tax, that's how it should occur, right? That's local control. Those small communities decide what's right for them, not somebody up in Sacramento or somewhere else who really doesn't understand what's happening in the community to make decisions for them. When it comes down to this, if this community thinks it's a public safety issue or that water's an issue, they're going to pay for it, just like the schools, right? San Jacinto and many other districts paid for college taxes, for school taxes. You know, these are priorities in life. Education, public safety. That's where it really belongs, is in the local hands. That's democracy, folks, from that perspective. So I am staunchly behind public safety as a veteran. I've always provided for safety and freedom to protect those things. And to me, that's what this is about, is public safety protects your freedom, right? And that's one of the fundamental reasons of government, is public safety. That's how one of the reasons government was formed, was to do that. And if you're not doing it, you know, then what is government for, right? If you can't do education or public safety on that front. So from the state level, you know, you add in the fires. So a lot of people don't understand that our fire departments supplement CAL FIRE, right, when there's fires. So if you defund your fire department, it actually impacts when there's a forest fire or fires in other areas. Our fire team can't go be deployed and go support them, right? These agencies have relationships where they support one another in time of catastrophe. In this case, these fires that are out of control. And I can't help but to think that a big reason that we're having these is we've had a lot of defunding of fire departments in these areas, and there's not enough support really to do that. And then also the fire departments, the forest teams, they help thin out and reduce the vegetation in these forest fires, right? They have multiple different aspects that they provide. So to me, public safety for our community is the utmost level, and if a community decides to have it as a priority where they want to pay a sales tax, they should be allowed to do that. And I wholeheartedly support their freedom to do that.
Great, thank you very much. Thanks for the high-level perspective. Now we're going to come back down to earth again here. Turn to Mike, who's going to wrap this whole thing up somehow for us. And Mike, we've heard a lot of ideas tonight, a lot of interesting proposals and everything. I'm sure none of them are free. They're all going to cost money. And your job is to keep us from going broke. So listening to everything that you heard tonight, do you have some summary reactions and thoughts about how that might affect your job and what you might do to steady the ship and make sure we don't end up in the welfare lines?
Thanks. I'll try to make sure everybody feels good about not ending up in welfare
We
line. So,
don't want to be there. No.
so we got a bunch of things going for us in this city. We have
You got audio? Okay, go ahead, he's got you.
we've got a lot of good things going for us in this city. We've got a great city manager, Rob Johnson, who's bringing in business, curbside appeal, gas station, fast food restaurants. We've got Sonic opening up here next week, I believe. They're on
2
like
weeks.
2
3 weeks. 3.
But they're opening very soon. We've got a great city council. We were talking about Measure V. From a private citizen standpoint and a small business standpoint, I'm not really sure that I'm for it. From a citizen of the city, being a contract city, knowing that our contracts are fixed with CAL FIRE and Riverside Sheriffs, it makes sense. So I understand both sides of the argument. The thing is that, people have always said, we go out of the city to do our shopping. Well, we need to start keeping some of that money here in our city too. Being the fact that I very rarely will go anywhere but San Jacinto to do my shopping, and when I do, it's probably Smart and Final in Hemet or Costco in Moreno Valley. I try to keep my dollars here in my city. So, but that being said, the folks that are on the city council, the folks that are on staff, and the folks that hopefully are coming into the city council, I trust them to do what's right with those dollars to keep this community safe. So.
Let me ask you another question, though. With all of these different programs and everything, and we have some long city council meetings sometimes, how are you as a treasurer going to stay on top of all the money and make it understandable to the citizens so they can figure out, oh, that's going there and that's going there, and if they don't have a degree in finance, they can still follow along?
Well, I don't have a degree in finance either. Like I said, I run a small business. All right, I run a small business, and it's small, right? I also run a group of guys that repairs, in my other job, repairs appliances, and I have to explain dollars and cents to them all day long. How much it costs to roll a truck out to a call, and how much money we're making, and do we want to order this part? We don't necessarily have to. I learned all those things as I was coming up through. I'll do the same thing as a treasurer. I'll have to be able to be on top of numbers. I'll have to be able to explain it to you, but there are people in staff that have already said that they'll help me do those things. We'll make sure that the money's going to the right positions, and I'm sure that the city council will make sure that I'm reporting those things to them to make sure that the money's being spent properly.
And how are you going to report it to the citizens?
Well, we report it to the citizens. We have, from what I understand, our financial records are all online. Also, they can come to city council meetings. We can get that kind of stuff. Be accessible. Talk to people, right? If they have questions, just make sure they can reach out to you and talk to
They can
them.
contact you?
You bet.
Understand something?
You bet.
Great, wonderful. Well, I think we've seen an enormous, interesting array of people here. We've got the high-level strategic thinker over here, Andrew Kayek, that brings a state perspective to the city council, which is certainly very valuable. And Brian Hawkins, what I heard is he's a man that's very close to the street, very close to the people in the street, listens intently to what they want to say, covers all the neighborhoods, and brings closeness of the people to the city council. I can certainly see why that would be a tremendous contribution. In Russ, we have the consummate bureaucrat of sense of the word, the economist, and a man who knows every single law that applies to everything that we talk about. And so he really has the whole technical side of the law and how we put these things together. And I don't think there's a peer to you on that, Russ.
Thank you.
So
I think
bring a lot of talent. Because, one little law can trip the whole thing up, right? if you
It's
don't
true.
know about it. And with Phil Ayala, we bring a sort of whole long experience of a military command structure, delegation, and perhaps a new perspective that hasn't been on the city council in the past, one that we could benefit from. And if you're looking for some new blood on the city council and you're approve and understand the military command and control approach, then I think Phil can bring some tremendous benefits to us. And with Crystal, we have probably the institutional memory, a person who knows the most about this city, has been serving maybe the city the longest, and has been in various roles, and is a real tiger up there. She doesn't let anything get past her. I've seen when I was covering those council meetings. So Crystal brings tenacity that certainly the city can benefit from. And, with Mike, we have our savior over here.
Wow.
That's a tall
I'm
order.
not a bureaucrat.
So I want to thank you all very much for coming tonight. Hopefully, everybody out there. And,
Did we have any questions, Eddie?
Yeah, Ed, we're going to turn the meeting over to Ed now.
Let me borrow
Have
your
a mic.
mic, Mike. And I'll throw it at you when you need it. All right, let's see what we have here. Number one, I guess this is going back to the question about when we were talking about CERT and being prepared, the community being prepared. Star Monica says, it's all okay and that's fine, but are you preparing the people that already live here? Are you?
Can I go ahead and start? I would love to, start with that. And I think, again, it goes, Monica, thanks for the question, awesome question. But I really do think it kind of starts with the people, the citizens of our community. The education is so important. And are we on?
Yeah, he just lost camera.
Eddie's battery died is what's happened. Eddie's batteries always die.
And his life going.
Keep on going? All right. So I really do think it has to go with education. When we educate our students, working closely with the school district, the school board members, and bringing that sort of preparedness. I mean, I remember back when I was in high school how we had home economics, how we had cooking, how we had all these different classes that prepared us and prepared all of our students for real life. For real life, and we don't have that anymore. And I'm glad and I'm honored and I'm privileged that I've been able to be an educator, preparing kids for real life, whether they join the military or not. They use these skills, as Dennis talked about, because in everyday life. Because everywhere you go, there's a chain of command. Even at home, there's a chain of command. Look at my house, for example. There's a chain of command there, and I'm not in command. My wife is in command, and I have told my students that firsthand a lot of times. But really going back to education and giving these resources to our community members, bringing these resources to the city, and also having a plan on the city council too. How are we going to have our city prepare for these kinds of disasters? It's not a matter of if, but when they happen, because they are going to happen. And if you're paying attention to what's going on in the world right now with all these different earthquakes and the fires and the civil disorder we've been experiencing, how is our city going to be prepared? And I really think that I can bring that experience to City Council.
And can I add that I think that this is the time right now to start preparing for these events. We've seen a lot over the last few months. I would love to hopefully have the money. I mean, if Measure V passes, what I would like to see is it doesn't cost much to do a CERT program, but not just a CERT program. I went to one of, I think it was Beaumont or Banning, that had a huge event that was sort of about preparedness, but I think that having the city put together an event where we are talking about not just, okay, you can buy these little tchotchke things to prepare yourself, but okay, this is how we communicate. If the communication system's down for this, community, how can you communicate to your family, friends, and neighbors? What's the best way? Partner with the churches and create a big event that actually shows how we can do it, not just in San Jacinto, but partner with Hemet, partner with Saboba. Because here's one thing, if there's a bad event in LA, if there's a bad event over in Orange County, where do you think they're coming? They're coming here. This is on the way out of town. So if we aren't prepared, if we don't know what we're doing as a community, then we're in trouble. So I think if we come together as a council and we come together as a city as we move forward and actually plan on preparing something where we can show our experience. Russ, you would be fabulous during part of this. Pastor, bringing people together and the pastors together. It is so important to get the pastors involved in this. If we don't have them, all we're doing is talking. Because if the pastors and the community churches are involved and we're all working on the same system, when you come in here and you have an earthquake, you have a fire, you have a flood, we're going to know exactly what to do. We're going to know where to meet. We're going to know how to take care of things. So I think it's a great question, but I think we need a commitment right here, right now, to say, hey, this is something that we really would like to bring forward. And it's something that we can easily bring forward at one of the council meetings and say, hey, this was brought to our attention during this event, and I think it's something that we should look at doing, especially if as we move forward we're going to have something like this. And I'm going to throw it, if you don't mind, Andrew, I think you ought to be doing something for the 42nd District. We know you're going to be the next assemblyman, so I expect to have it right here. San Jacinto.
So that's something that I strongly am passionate about. And you heard me say we don't have that leadership stepping up and leading, right? So this isn't the only valley or city that's talking like this, right? All the cities feel this way. That they're scared to reopen or what they do in an emergency. The state should be recognizing that. The state should have a grant program, just like the CERT program that was talked about. We should have programs that provide these basic safety and funding in the community to have a hierarchy of who does what and fund these programs, because we will have an emergency, right? It will happen again, whether it's next week or next year or whatever it is. And we need to be prepared. And as one of the world's largest economies in California, that's something we definitely can do. And that's what I bring, is that local need and support of being proactive and bringing, hearing the local voices of people, just like this, city council members and candidates that are running. It's important that we step forward and have a proactive leadership, right? I hate being reactive. In life, I've always been proactive. We did that in San Jacinto with adding law enforcement. When we saw gang members moving in, when we needed revenue, we added a power utility agency in San Jacinto to offset. As a small businessman, I understand that, how to create jobs, really listen to people, and to give back. And we really need that leadership right now. And I'm that leadership. You're absolutely right. Thank you.
And a good thing of talking about the CERT too, people, don't realize what CERT is all about. And CERT is a good organization that actually helps people teach themselves how to look out for themselves and then look out after your neighbors in time of service like this. So we definitely encourage the community not just to expect our city to be the ones to help take care of them in time of need. We all need to get together and join CERT just to know what you need to do. So Dennis, is there a way that you can maybe post a link later on this live stream directing people how they can find out more about CERT and how they can be more proactive?
Yeah, there are, because Riverside Disaster Preparedness website lists the coming CERT classes. Now, maybe COVID-19 has slowed things down a little bit.
I think it's stopped it.
But there's a lot of good research material on the internet which we can research and put up there as well.
And
Eddie,
Dennis and Eddie, I think one of the things that you need to remember is he's CERT trained.
I have a-
Oh, we need him right there. That's
So he is
it.
right here and running for city council. How awesome would that be to have him on the city council?
I have a couple of
doing that?
important points to make really
Go ahead,
quick
Bob.
on it. Is that, the community education and outreach is an ongoing process. If you look at what the city has done with COVID, whether it's our Monday updates, whether it's all the information we put out via our website and our social media, we're doing that now with this crisis. And we've been working with the school district, for example, for preparedness. A lot of people may not know this, but there are supplies staged at every campus in town, as well as city supplies staged in a few pivotal locations here in town, as well as a city disaster response trailer that is here in town. And so we do have some coordination, some plans, but of course for things like that we could always do better.
And
And I
one thing
Let Brandon have a
that you
shot.
need to remember is during this COVID event, one of the things that took off really was Doc and Beth doing the food in the communities. And it was important for them, for Sonia Ramos, for Brian, to go in and provide that service. And it's something that, you know, we learned from this event that needs to be done, but it really affected hundreds. You know, we have 52,000 people in this city. They affected people not just here, but in the entire region. And it's so important getting that networking together and to help provide for those in need. So it's something that should be added. CERT is not just about, you know, what happens in a terrible emergency, you know, fire, flood, you know, all of that. Because remember, the food chain may be broken, so how can we solve that problem? So thank you, Doc and Beth, for doing that. And Brian wanted to say something.
Yeah, so I definitely want to say, so here's the thing. A lot of the stuff that can be done, and Star, great question, as far as getting the word out. And that's one of the things that's kind of bothered me a lot about, you know, politicians and the whole process, because it's like we stop listening to the community, stop getting information to the community. There's stuff that's already available that people just don't know, because somewhere between, you know, council in the community or churches in the community, because even churches, you know, we're guilty of it, you know, not getting all the information out there. San Jacinto Unified School District already has an amazing communication network set up. My children go to Esadil Elementary School. Guess what? I get a phone call, or I get a text message first to let me know that there's food pickup on Wednesday. Then I get a phone call to make sure that I go pick up the food on Wednesday. You know, with all the social learning, social distancing, I mean, there's new, you know, ways of doing things, and we can implement these same strategies the same way that San Jacinto can send out messages to every household to let them know to come pick up their kids, you know, tablets or, you know, stuff that needs to get turned in. You know, this same information, we can, you know, tap into the same network. We need a news station out here. We don't have a local news station. I mean, you know, I know that we have, you know, different groups, but when it comes to accountability, because anybody can start a news outlet and put anything on there and play politics all the way across, and so to have that accountability. But I really believe that one of the big things that we need to focus on is making sure that we're staying connected with the community. Worst thing we can do is get elected and then start speaking for ourselves and not speaking for the people. And then when the people find out, hey, I didn't say that. This isn't something that I wanted. This isn't something that I wanted to have done. But to get back to communicating with the people and getting this information out, it's not hard to do. It's not, especially in all this technology that we have available, apps. And, you know, during the COVID, I think it was Rob Johnson and I can't think of the other young lady that were doing the San Jacinto, Tara, every Monday, Wednesdays. And
Andrew.
And Andrew, I know he started doing the one with the prayer, but, you know, that's really good. But there's people who just don't know about it. But, you know, we need to get back to, I honestly think as city council, we should spend our whole 4 years still campaigning for the people's vote, you know, still knocking on doors, still talking to people, still hearing from people, going to the farmers markets on Thursdays and Saturdays and different events that has happened. I see Russ and Crystal at a lot of events, but we have to make sure that we're not just showing up, and I'm not saying this, and I don't want this to be taken the wrong way, just showing up for photo ops, but really out there connecting with the people, making sure that the people know what's going on, making sure that they know that these links are on the website, that all this information is available, because it's good for city council to know it all, but it's horrible when the people don't know what city council know, and I think that that's an important thing.
Eddie, can I just add something? As
It's going to cost you.
longtime advocate of CERT and a member of the senior community, I think nobody benefits more from CERT than the senior community. Nobody's going to need the help more than the senior community. I'm on the San Jacinto Senior Center Advisory Board, and this past year we've added programs from the police and fire department on personal safety and fire safety, but also on disaster preparedness. And we've done it all on our own. We've not really talked to the city council. I think I blabbed about it a few times up there, but I think really this next year we want to refine our program, but I can see where we need to do this in coordination with the city and what the city's planning to do. So I'd like to recommend that we try to work a little bit more closely with the the disaster recovery officers in the city, so that we're not just over there saying one thing while somebody else is saying something else.
Right, a coordinated effort, and that's what's important. And it's not just about the city council members, because let me tell you, the city council members are just citizens. When you talk about coordination, coordination is through the city. City manager, the city staff, they coordinate with the council, coordinating with the key people in the city. Those are the ones that need to be coordinated with. They're the ones that need to be linked together. When we talk about getting out information, council members can't go rogue. We have certain policies and procedures that we have to follow. We have to make sure that when there are times in emergencies where God knows we don't want elected officials out there going, oh, you're going to go do this, because the reality is they may be telling you the wrong thing. We need to know what the exact thing is to do. And as a council member, and Russ knows and Andrew knows, we've had training in that. You don't just go out there and spout out, what you hope to happen. You need to know, and you need to have it coordinated with the city, because the worst thing that can happen during a crisis is if a council member's rogue and they're out there telling you one thing and it's totally the wrong thing for you to do. It's better to be doing the right thing from the beginning, and knowing what the city, how the city functions and what they're doing. So coordinating with the city and the churches, that coordination, that communication has to be there, and that's something that I would like to see. If we're going to go through a program and set something up, we need to get the pastors in the entire valley, Saboba, Hemet, Hemet as well. They're key people. The council members, we're going to be instructed, hey, this is the way that we're processing, and all of us have to be on the same page. But the citizens, need to be able to coordinate, and they need to have, it's not just the 5 council members in each city that's going to tell them what to do. You need to have a pastor who's, they handle a large portion of the community goes to church, and it's various churches. It doesn't matter what kind it is, but it's various churches, and coordinating that with what the city does, the county does, and bringing it all together. We do that right now for homelessness. We work on boards. I'm on one of the boards for homeless issues, and it's interesting to watch as you bring all these different communities together, and everybody has a different idea of what to do, but unless you coordinate the efforts, then sometimes you're just spinning your wheels. So it's really good, and it's really important. The community center is key to reaching all the senior citizens, not just here in San Jacinto, but in Hemet as well. And it's a huge deal for you guys to bring that to the city and say, hey, we need to coordinate here. And then with us going to the dais and saying, hey, we want to see a preparedness plan, and that's something we'd like to see over the course of the next year. And let's get something down in writing, and let's have an actual plan, a plan of attack. Because if we don't have a plan of attack, we're no better off. We're just, flapping our lips. And frankly, I don't like to do that. I want action.
Well, I don't want to just leave everyone with the feeling that there isn't a emergency preparedness plan. Every city has it. We have a disaster preparedness plan, and that's where the CERT program comes from that you're hearing about tonight. Sanson actually has a good emergency preparedness plan, and we fall under the Riverside County with their emergency preparedness plan. Same thing in Yucca Valley, Coachella Valley, and these small cities. So there are plans out there. Folks, if you don't know what it is, look at your city council's websites, talk to your emergency responders. But it is the awareness that people aren't aware of, and it's not enough, right? In the face of this epidemic, this pandemic, we know that there needs to be more. And I remember early on when we were doing the morning prayer, and we started realizing back in March what to do, we started saying, hey, check on your neighbors, right? You don't have to go inside, but knock on the window, make sure they're okay with the seniors. We started doing mailers out to all the seniors in the community, and we had a little reply card with free postage, right? Do you need food? Do you need medical attention or a ride somewhere? We had that fear of seeing people or moving about, but those are people in our community, and so it's a very much realization of technology. And now there's a lot of apps in our neighborhoods, right? I mean, my neighborhood, we're all connected with Ring and the different ones where you can connect with your neighbors. So there are good plans. We have a great plan in San Jacinto, but this is a great time to revisit that, raise the awareness, and really push leadership to say, hey, it's not enough. How do we do more? And who's going to help pay for that, and how do we make sure it stays relevant going forward? People don't forget, because that's what happens is everyone, all of a sudden, nothing happens, there's no emergency, and everyone becomes relaxed, right? We need to make sure that we stay forward and awareness of that, I think,
It should
as
be a
well.
living document, so it's always changing and ever evolving. And adding the senior citizens and adding the church, adding the people's voice. Not just, people come to our council meetings and they're always letting us know what they need and everything. But it can't be just twice a month, or it can't be even once a year that you show up. What we need is real communication with the senior community. We need real communication with the churches, real communication with the high school. This is where you're going to meet if there's a problem. Remember that evacuation plan I talked about earlier? It's the same principle. And really one thing that we are learning is that when you have natural disasters, you have communication issues. And the cell towers are down, or you have different things. And Russ, there are opportunities, right, for people to be able to do things other than communicate via telephone, right?
Of course.
And so it's our job to work together to make things happen, and hopefully, they'll give us another shot and to help us to, it's not just about what we do. It's not just about what Andrew does. Andrew's going to be sitting in the assembly. He's going to be sitting on the assembly floor. If we don't take the opportunity to go up and tell him how we feel and what we want and what we need, he'll never know. The reality is, we need to know what you need, and you have to be willing to actually not just, yell, hey, this is how I feel, but say, hey, I have an opportunity to solve the problem. When we closed the parks, remember the school teacher, Paul Reiser?
Jim Reiser.
Jim Reiser came to city council. He opened his mouth, and I was mayor, and he offered to help. And I said, I'm going to take you up on that offer, because people do a lot of talking and not a lot of action. And if we see more action, we're going to see great things happening on the state level, on the city council level, in our churches, in the community center, wherever you're at. If you get out and you actually take action and do something to make it a better place, then it's going to get, one, better faster, and two, you're going to be part of the solution, and that's really important.
Well, Chris, what we've seen at the community center last year was that the big leadership and knowledge came from Kat Henderson and the fire department in Hemet. But this year, it's going to be coming from San Jacinto and Riverside County. Rivco Emergency Preparedness is a great website, and they have great people over there. And I could see us taking over the leadership. And we trained for everybody in this valley. Everybody came here. They weren't going to the Simpson Center for any of this training.
Nice.
Were there any other questions, Eddie?
Yeah, we got a ton of them over here. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and start this question off for you, Russ.
Okay.
This is by Louis Johnson, or shall I say Louise Johnson?
Louise, yeah.
Louise. Okay, Louise, I'm sorry about that. Anyways, what are some of the homeless issues that we face, and how will you help work out these issues for our city? Now, I know the homeless issue is a big situation for not just San Jacinto, but of Hemet as well, too. So what is your take on that?
Well, homelessness is overall really a state and county situation for them to deal with. That's where the money flows. There is no money that goes directly to the city that is targeted for homeless services, because homeless services goes through mental health services. Right. And so that's county. But we are participating with a roundtable group within the 3rd Supervisor District to really kind of put Supervisor Washington's feet to the fire about coming up with some effective plans, getting some things done. And, one thing we've been doing is that our code enforcement is, when there's an illegal encampment or there are illegal activities happening, they're working with the Sheriff's Department and helping to mitigate some of those negative impacts. Now, at the same time, this is one of the reasons why we need Andrew to go north, is the state continues to take tools away from local agencies to address some of the negative impacts of homelessness. But as a city, we recognize that we're getting left behind. The county isn't really doing everything they should be doing with the money they're getting. We saw Orange County get sued and have a judge actually mandate all kinds of craziness in Orange County recently over their homeless issues. We don't want things to get that bad here in San Jacinto. So if Measure V passes, one of the priorities that we have set, again, based on that survey, is some homeless outreach services. And so we're going to look and see who's been successful and what they've been doing and find a way to program some of that money to make an impact, because we want to improve quality of life for everybody. And of course, nobody should have to live on the street. And so we need to do a better job of outreach and connecting people to available services that are already there.
And like I say, a lot of the situations too is you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. You know,
Exactly.
you got
It's
those
interesting.
ones that out there that wants to help, needs to help, but then you got the ones that don't want to help because they love that lifestyle.
Oh yeah, you know, they average almost 19 points of contact before you can get somebody who lives on the street to make the decision the first time to actually, okay, well, maybe I'm doing things that aren't good for me, and I'm not benefiting myself and my family, and so maybe I need to try and make some changes. And so 19 points of contact, but then 9 out of 10 of those people who make that decision for the first time end up back on the street within 3 weeks. And so it's a very long-term process.
That's good. And anybody else have any input on that?
I do want to say something about the homeless issue. A lot of people don't know, when I moved to San Jacinto, actually when I moved to Hemet, I was homeless. I moved out here, and so there's so many different variables to the homeless situation, because I've met with quite a few homeless people, where our church is located. There's some that sit over in that gazebo at the San Jacinto Community Center. They'll sleep over in that area and find different places. There's no, and I think people understand, there's no quick, easy fix for the homeless situation, because you're dealing with mental issues, you're dealing with drugs, you're dealing with some of the issues of really kind of like pride. I can't think of the gentleman's name that, when I asked, if somebody paid your rent for a year and helped you out, would you want to take advantage of it? And I think the first response was like, no, I kind of, rather stay where I'm at. I want to stay down in that area. And I'm saying, so you mean to tell me you rather stay living, down in the riverbed? You really want to stay? And I think after about a few minutes of, conversing with the gentleman, I guess he realized what I was actually asking him. And he came to a sense and said, actually, I really kind of would prefer to have a nice bed and a shower. I think a lot of it has to do with, some of the people that are willing to help. Now taking care of the homeless has become a photo op for a lot of individuals, so kind of like feel more embarrassed of the idea. A lot of churches, a lot of different organizations, when they go down to feed the homeless, they want to put the videos on and make their life a spectacle. So, I definitely believe that it's not just a city council issue, because there are money that homeless can get, as far as EBT and, housing and different things. But as far as having make sure that it's being ran right, that individuals aren't just taking advantage of it, the scam of individuals who get EBT and half their money, they'll meet somebody at Walmart and give them, $100 cash so they can go get drugs and swap out, $200 off of the EBT. So there's so many different things that need to be regulated all the way across the board. Like I said, it's not a quick and easy fix. And until you're in that element, until you're surrounded by it, you wouldn't really understand how difficult it is to just go and say, hey, here's a house, here's a home, here's this, especially if your mind isn't conditioned to taking care of yourself and providing and knowing how to shower and knowing how to pay bills and different things. I definitely believe that there's a full process to it, to really getting a person to taking care of themselves. And so just automatically giving them everything, no. But I think that there should be a step-by-step process that should go into it, that everyone collectively, as far as with churches, mental health, the probation department, the police department, different individuals collectively coming together. And I heard Crystal say that there's already a round table, but this has been such a long-going issue that now it's time to move forward with the solution instead of just having consistent round table meetings.
Thank you. Andrew's got something you want to put in with that, Andrew?
I do. This is a huge issue. And it really has shown up the last 10 years in California. We really didn't have this issue, back in the 80s, 70s, 90s, 2000s. It's really been the last 10 years. And it's really due to policy up in Sacramento, folks. Period. Right? We're taking away funding from programs that were funded. It's not a partisan issue, right? There's Republicans, governors that did it. There's Democratic governors that did it. They're all to blame in one form or fashion, right? Of elimination, as you heard, the mental health facilities, releasing criminals, and not allowing them to really come into a community the right way. It could be addicts, and the same thing with veterans. California used to have the best and strongest veteran program there was in the nation. It was called CalVet. It's all been about eliminated now out there. Our priorities have shifted, and they need to go back to take care of our people. We're crushing the middle class and the low income, right? The blue collars. It's unaffordable to live in California. And right now we're seeing this huge unemployment rate with the pandemic because people are out of work. Those numbers are going to shoot up. Homeless shelters are closing, right? We just had 3 close in Palm Springs. Who takes care of them during a pandemic? This is a problem that is exacerbated by the pandemic and by the unaffordability in California, and the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. And whether you're poor, mentally ill, medically disabled, you're a veteran, or an addict, you're not being helped. And California politicians in Sacramento are only making it worse. And really coming from a blue-collar background and working my way up, I've seen this, and it's that common sense approach that I have to really bring help to our community, bring help back to where it's affordable, like we've done in San Jacinto. We have 30-year-olds, right, that are being able to buy homes and create their families again. We can do it, and it's not time to give up hope, but this problem is just a recent problem. This isn't something that has been with us, and it's time to realize that, and it's time to make change, folks. If you are not voting for a candidate that has your voice and your passion about really fixing problems, then you need to vote for somebody who does. It's time for change, and good change, to bring the prosperity back to all, whether it's low or middle income, not just the wealthy, I believe.
Eddie, Phil.
Yeah, I was going to mention something about that. Growing up in East Los Angeles and LA, I've been homeless for a good chunk of my young life, and I mean homeless by sometimes being on the streets, sometimes living at friends and families' houses and apartments, and having 3 or 4 families stuffed into little 1-bedroom apartments. I know what it's like, and I've been there. And I think those kind of values about being able to just care for one another are so important. A lot of us drive down the streets and ignore what's going on, and we see it every single day. And I'm proud to let everyone know that my son Micah, who is now 16, just a couple of days ago, whenever he has money in his pocket and we're driving the streets or whatnot, we happen to stop, he wants to give his money, he wants to give all of his money away. And I always tell him, yes, let's help as much as we possibly can, and let's try to give as much as we can, but we got to make sure that we can actually continue to do that. So he goes, well, how can we get like a blanket program for people of the homeless? How can we try to get them some more food, or how can we do this? So I kind of go off his little bit of inspiration as he's been growing up for most of his life. And I see what's happened in our city, and it's not just here, it's not San Jacinto, it's everywhere. It's all throughout California, and I was just in LA on yesterday, and I saw how devastating it is out there. And I think with the resources that we have with the city, working in partnership with the county, working in partnership with the state, working with the Department of Veterans Affairs, because unfortunately, a lot of our homeless are veterans. I think we could find the resources that we need to bring them here locally to our city. Is it going to solve every single homeless problem? No, but we got to start, and we got to start somewhere.
When I ran in 2012, there was so much that nobody knew about me because I wasn't confident enough to speak out and how the folks would react to what I was going to say. I know homeless. The reason I know it is I spent 5 years living in a tent. It wasn't like, Andrew's right, it wasn't like it is now. It was 2000, and we hid the tent. You didn't just put it up anywhere. It wasn't acceptable. No one could tell. I was in a wheelchair. I couldn't walk. No one could tell that I was homeless other than if you knew. I mean, I can identify a homeless person really quickly because I'm familiar with it. But it wasn't the same thing. I think society today has said it's okay to be homeless. We put up with it. We, you know, those of us who are the silent majority who don't say anything, we just look the other way. And that's part of the problem, is that we look the other way. There are people that desperately need help. There are people who are drug addicts. There are people who are alcoholics. There are people who don't like the rules. They just don't want the help. There are people like me who wanted to get out of it desperately bad. I wanted the help. Could I get the help? No. Do you know what they told me? I had to get pregnant by one of the homeless guys. That's what they wanted me to do. And then they would help me. That was the last thing I wanted to do. You know, there's a point in your life when you go, hey, you're in a, like as low as you can get, and you can succumb to that, or you can, you know, as I told the president, dig your heels in and pull yourself up out of that mess. That's exactly what I did. But not everybody is like me. Not everybody wants to get out of it. We need to reach out to those. We still have to keep reaching out. We need to find those who really want the help, and we need to get them the help. There are veterans. There are veteran programs. There are programs for a drug addiction or alcohol addiction. There are programs for people who have families. And one of the things I keep telling the county supervisor is one of the problems is you have a lot of homeless people have animals, and they're afraid that the animal's going to be taken away from them. Some people have children. They're afraid that children are going to be taken away from them, so they hide it. The truth is, the ones who we want to help are the ones who hide, because those are the ones who desperately need it, but they can't get the help. The schools really, when the schools were open, they're really good at identifying kids that they believe might be homeless, and they try and help where they can, but right now the schools are closed. So that responsibility goes back on us. You can't just feed the homeless. That doesn't solve the problem. You know, we have to go out and do one, we need to pray for them. You don't have to be standing there praying with them hand in hand, but we should be praying every day for those homeless people, those people who don't have a roof over their heads. We pray that they want the help, that they get the help. We should be finding programs that we can do as a community and allowing, you know, getting the knowledge out there. Our deputies go out there and they have cards that they can give people that have help. You know, all the homeless people now have phones. You know, I had to pay for mine. And at the time in 2000, it was $500 a month. That was the only thing I had. Everything else? No, I had a tent. That was it.
Now,
So-
have you heard anything about, I'm glad you brought that up about the deputies. You know, the deputies has, what is it, a ROCKS team that helps out with the homeless?
That's in
Hammond?
That's in
Sanderson
Hem.
was pop.
Yeah, a POP
Yeah.
team, right.
POP
And we
team.
do
I
have
know
that.
something like
Part
that.
of Measure V will be used to help us expand that. But it's not, you know, they're right. It's not just San Jacinto and Hemet, because it is the county. It is the state. The truth is, the state's letting out more prisoners than we can handle. And you know what? They're being let out. They've committed the crime in LA. They can't live in LA. Guess where it puts them at? When you look at the mileage, they have to be out here. So what happens here? Our crime goes up. If we don't get those police officers, we have a problem. We can go out and reach out. The thing that we have to, as a community, understand is that some people don't want the help. So here's the deal. When you're driving down the street and you see a homeless person walking by, one, first of all, pray for them. Two, know that if they're just passing through, we can't do anything about it. You can't stop them. They have a right to walk down the street. What they don't have a right to do is panhandle. That's illegal. They don't have a right to harass people. That's illegal. And you have to understand something, and I know this from experience, so I'm telling you for your own safety, understand this. Every single homeless person has a weapon. You have to. Because if you don't, you'll be raped every night. And that's just, I hate to put it that way, but that's the truth of the matter. So know that some of these people are on drugs. Some of these people have mental challenges. But every one of them has a weapon. So remember that when dealing with the homeless. Keep your guard up. You know, always protect yourself. Make sure you're protected. Pray for them. If you see the homeless, you see them camping, the first thing you do is call the non-emergency number. Hey, you know, they're over here, snap a picture. You can always send it to one of the council members. We'll make sure that they get it. And they'll go over there. They offer help. The first thing our deputies do is offer help. We have help for you. And that's the first thing they do. And if they can't get them help, they say, okay, you know what? Here's the next option. You need to leave. If they don't want to leave.
We do have a city, some of the city, or not, let me back that up, retract it. Some of the deputies, and Dennis can probably vouch for this. I know that some of these deputies probably need to be kind of coached on this.
Mm-hmm.
They're supposed to be out here to not only help the homeless, but they're also out here destroying the homeless. You know, Dennis has witnessed some, I don't know what deputies are. I know it's here in San Jacinto, RSO. They'd go down there and they'd
Go down where?
the riverbed.
Riverbed
And
is in the county.
It's in the county, so it has nothing to do with y'all.
Nope.
But they'll go in there and just cut up their tents and everything.
Yeah, the reality, think about this. It's you're talking about the riverbed. Anytime there can be a flash flood way up in the mountain, right? That water comes barreling down here and takes them out.
We already had a rescue already.
Exactly, exactly. Do I agree with that method? No. Do I understand that they're trying to save lives? Yes. Some of them need training, yeah, because it's hard. You don't know what you're dealing with. When you walk up to a homeless person, you really have no clue what you're dealing with. It could be somebody who just needs the help, or it could be somebody who's got mental issues or is completely on some type of drugs, and in which case you don't know what direction you're going in. Plus, you're dealing with also, you know, the rioting issues and all of that. When police officers, and God forbid, you know, I don't think I could ever do their job, because what they do is so, it takes somebody really, really special to go out and do that, because every day they don't know what they're up against. And when you're dealing with the homeless, you really don't know. And so they're used, you know, they are dealing with that on a daily basis, and it's hard to watch because we don't live that. I pray for the people. If you get them help, but we need to make sure that we offer it. We need to make sure that if they don't want the help, here's the options. You can leave, or, and a lot of them, probably 85% of them, have some type of warrant, or they have a weapon. Now remember, I said 100% of them have a weapon.
Right.
So you pretty much know that that's the case, because they have to. But the reality is they have a choice. We have the help for you. Take the help. We can move them on, but we can't prevent them from walking down the street. If you see a tent, you see a camp, take a photo and get it to one of us, or get it to the city manager, or get it to the non-emergency number, and hey, you've got an encampment over here. The thing is we don't want our children, and I don't know if the cameras can see this, but we don't want our children to go and run into somebody who is not safe for them. It is very dangerous in this world today, and I'll tell you something. I wasn't going to say anything, but I think you guys need to understand what kind of world we're living in right now. The other day we were on the street corner doing our little political rally, and somebody pulled up and started harassing one of the young men that was with, us. My daughter was standing there, 11 years old. The guy gave her one of those dirty sexual looks. The driver wasn't, but it was the passenger. He looked her up one side and down the other, and as soon as I saw that, I freaked. I handed my banner to my son, and I went over there like I'm a dumb blonde, ooh, because I saw what the signals were. He leaned to the driver, and he nodded towards my daughter. The driver nodded yes. He started reaching for his door. He was going to grab my daughter.
Well, that'd be a cold
They
day
came
in
back
hell.
3 times. 3 times they came back. But these are the kind of things that we're dealing with, and we really need to stay vigilant. We need to stay alert, and we need to always keep in mind when we're dealing with homeless, we don't know how they act. We don't know what's really going on behind the scenes, but we have an obligation to protect our children, to protect our seniors, and to protect ourselves. And so pray for them, but offer them the help, and always listen to the deputies, always.
Can I add something to Micah and the blankets?
Yeah.
Okay, so the Lions Club, like, we have a blanket program in the wintertime.
We do.
So the Lions Club that's in San Jacinto, that's been here for 90 plus years, has a blankets program. I mean, I'm hearing a lot, you're talking about CERT the last question, and I'm hearing a lot of we need to get the churches involved, if the city can do this. What I'm not hearing is some of the most successful programs that the city and the Chamber of Commerce, the San Jacinto Chamber of Commerce, have ever ran together were not a dime more. Where we gave the card to the local panhandlers and said, this is where you can go get assistance at these places. I still have some of those cards in my truck, and I've handed a couple out in the last, say, month or so. The other thing, let's shine a light on some of these fantastic nonprofits we have in the valley. Elks, for example. I mean, they started the GI Bill. They work with a lot of veterans programs. If you want to help a vet, join Elks and get that word out to them. You've got the Moose Lodge in town. You've got Lions that I'm a big fan of. There's a lot of nonprofits. Find your nonprofit. Figure out a way to get involved in your community. And a lot of these problems will get better. You just got to have, we've got churches, we've got government, we've got local nonprofits. You've got businesses that, in my mind, these are some of the brightest, sharpest, most inventive people on the face of the earth, and they own small businesses in this community. Some of these guys that have some of these race shops in town that have competed in the Bajas and stuff like that, pretty inventive minds. I'm sure they could help if we tap those resources. I'm sure they could help us with some of these issues we're having in our community.
That's everybody stepping up and taking action to do something. Stop talking about it. We're trying every day to do something about solving the problems, and it's not going to fix itself overnight, but we also don't have to accept it as status quo. Nope.
No.
All right. Next, let me see here. I'm going to try to combine these two questions here. This is from Bridge Gridge. What a name. I just want my city to get back to what it was 19 years ago. Stores were clean, walking trails were maintained and safe to walk through any hour of the night. Taking preparations for disasters that may happen, that is important. But I think that we have as many more problems in the front that need to be fixed in the immediate future, such as the street lights. The walking trails need street lights, and he's also saying that he's already contacted city officials, even contacted the city council, and their street light has been out for 2 weeks and have yet been fixed. So what is your inputs about trying to fix the street lights, walking trails of the city?
So Eddie, he needs to reach out and let the city, he can email any one of us, not all of us, because they tend to try and do that, and you're going to break the Brown Act when you do that, just individually. If you reach out to me, give me your address, so where the street light is located at, we'll make sure that somebody gets out and fixes it. Those darn street lights are the worst when they're not fixed, because it's not safe for you. One of the things, though, and I think Russ can expand on this, is the walking trails, the trails plan, master trails plan that we've been working on. It's absolutely, they're going to love the master trails that we have for walking and biking, and we want to make it an environment where people want to be outside, getting exercise. Russ, you want to?
Brian wanted to jump in, so I'll let him go ahead and go.
Yeah, well, no, it just goes back to, when I hear people, like I said, because I talk to a lot of people, and that's one of the things I hear, which becomes kind of like the unacceptable response. People don't want to hear the political answer. It's kind of like, if a light goes out at Walmart, if a light goes out at your house, you feel like I should just go down to Walmart and fix it. And I think that one of the things that's missing is people understanding how the money is allocated. And if it's not available, then it's not available. And then you hear about taxes being increased, and you got to get people to understand and make it make sense. I don't think anyone should have to worry about a street light going out. I think that should be one of the, because priorities in the community is making sure that stuff stays fixed. That was something that I prided myself as being a pastor in the church. I grew up going to church where we had building funds and never fix anything. But we would raise money for building funds, but the doors would be broken. So that was something that I always pride myself. If something got broken in the church, we wanted to fix it right away. When it comes down to street lights and signs and different things, people are saying, hey, I've reached out 4 or 5 times. I read the comments. I've reached out 4 or 5 times, email. Nobody wants to hear the political answer during campaign season. And then once it's all over, nobody's responding to emails. Nobody's, calling back. Nobody's picking up. Because it's the reason why this question is being asked now, because this has been an ongoing issue. We have to have, and to go back to the comment about being rogue, I'm definitely not being a rogue person. I'm a get it done type of individual. It's the reason why I'm running, to get it done, to fix things that have been overlooked. And if it can't be fixed right away, like you said, the trail that's coming up, people need to know these things are being worked on, and how it's going to be worked on, and when it's going to be worked on. What is the timetable for getting it fixed? To say I emailed me back or I called your office and nobody responded back to it. We're not that big of a city for anybody to not call back and email. There's 5 of us, or there will be 5 people that's sitting on the council that, it's enough to respond back to everybody's questions and concerns. And I can say that, yeah, it's easy to say that because you're not in the chair, but as a pastor, I'm already kind of like doing this job anyway. Last night I went to go sit with a mother who, I'm not even a Catholic priest, but because none of the Catholic priests were responding to a mother who wanted to give her last rites. I don't know anything about the last rite because I'm a pastor, but because I'm a pastor and I'm a man of the cloth, I responded to her. And I went and sat with Mary last night, and prayed with her, because that was something that somebody asked. I just got through driving 37 hours across the country. I was exhausted, but I don't get to take a day off because when I said yes to being a pastor, I said yes to 24/7. It's the same thing. When I said yes to being city council, I said yes to 24/7. I'm putting other people's needs above my own. And that's what it means to be a public servant. If you don't want to serve, then don't run. If you don't want to get the job done, I don't want the title. I want to get the job done. I want to see it get done. And that's exactly what's going to happen. Instead of saying, oh, we can do this next year, next week. By that time, somebody drive down the street and it's dark. We can get stuff done and not play politics with the answers.
There's no politics being played with those answers, though. I think that you don't understand something. If somebody sends an email to all 5 of us, you're breaking the Brown Act. So you better learn that
No,
Brown
I didn't
Act
say
right
send an
now.
email to all 5 of us. I'm
So-
saying responding to an email, period.
Right, but the reality is we all respond to an email. Every single one of us goes out of our way to respond to an email. We have to be careful if we're going to break the Brown Act. If somebody has a light out, they need to give us the location and we can make sure that somebody's on it. And we definitely will. I haven't seen any email come over like that, but send it to me directly where it's at and I'll make sure that it gets done. We don't want our citizens to be in harm's way. We don't want you to sit in the dark. It's the worst thing ever to have your house in the dark because that's when crime goes up and we don't want that. So make sure you send it directly to me. I'll get it taken care of. Or even Andrew's still the mayor. Send it directly to him. Either one of us, Russ is still on city council. Any one of us will do it. Just don't send it to all of us at once. We don't want a Brown Act violation. And the city manager, we will follow up. If you get it to us tonight, we'll follow up tomorrow morning. In fact, if you give it to us tonight, any one of us will reach out to Rob tonight.
It's street light number 13 on Arenas.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. So,
Write
so
it
can I
down
just
for me.
I just want to
Write-
ask this
write it down
one
for me
question.
So I have that.
So here comes like so what is the Brown Act so people can understand that? So somebody can't send an email to everyone.
No, you can't. You can't send one email to everyone because that's considered a meeting. If we have a meeting, it has to be agendized, and we can't communicate that way. I don't go and talk to Andrew or Ross or all 3 of us in a situation where we would be doing something that talks about something like a street light or something like that, because that's illegal. So we won't do that. So when you go and you email us, and you can email us through the city website, but you want to do one individual. If you send each one of us the same email, that's fine as long as we don't know about it and we reach out to Rob and we're going to get it taken care of. But once you do it to 3 or more of us, that's a Brown Act violation, which means that we're having a meeting and it has to be agendized, it has to be posted, and everybody has to come over to where the meeting's at, and you don't want to go that route. It's dangerous and we won't do anything illegal. So, Russ has gone out late night. looking for these things as well. When somebody sends me something, I do the same thing. It doesn't matter what time of day or night. You just need to know that since you're running for city council, you're not an elected official, so you're not going to be understanding a lot of this stuff.
Oh, no, I understand it. What I'm saying is, so the people of San Jacinto or just period, how do they know that if they send an email to 5 people that, could they get in trouble for that?
No, they can't get into trouble.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because it's
the
coming off like
elected
it's illegal
officials.
to them.
It's the elected officials. The elected officials are the ones that are responsible. If we respond back, and we each respond back, that's a violation. We can't do that. So when you email us, make sure you email it to one. When somebody emails me on a group thing, I generally send it over to the city manager, and the city manager handles it. I don't call back because the Brown Act. But if you send it to me directly, I've had people over the last few days just call me up. They had a situation that people had not responded to. So I got a hold of them and I told them how to resolve the situation. I told them I found that the people they needed to contact, I did exactly what I needed to do to get them the help. One of the things that I don't believe in doing is going out and shouting out all the good things that I do. To me, it's personal. So it's between
you and God.
Well, it's not just me and God, but it's the person I'm helping. I've been all over town. I'm all over everywhere. And when somebody asks for help, I go out of my way and trying to do it. But if they want to shout out that I'm doing something good, then that's on them. And thank you for that. But I don't need the kudos. I know that during election time, everyone's like, Crystal, you need to shout this stuff out. But it's personal to me. If I help you, it's personal. No, I don't need the pat on the back. What I need to do is make sure that you're taken care of. And I've had recently, one of the ladies who had some issues getting something done in the city recently emailed me back because she forgot to email me to let me know that it was resolved. And so she wanted to email me back. And so she emailed me back just recently going, oh my gosh, it was all resolved. I was like, thank you. I just wanted to follow up. But you know, it's not something that we go out and say, hey, I did this for so-and-so and I did this for so-and-so, because to me it's personal.
I want to touch on that real quick. And I'm sorry, Russ.
No, go ahead.
The question was, my streets light is broken, and what are we going to do about the trails? What are we going to do about the community? And I want to kind of, because that kind of hit close to me. I'm a mountain biker. I love being outside. I love being on my bike. I love seeing nature, and I take my explorers on these hiking trips up through Bee Canyon, up into the mountains, and all over the area around here. And I want to see that stuff too. So as a regular citizen, I know exactly how you feel, because I want to see that stuff too. And again, it really comes back down to education. We have to be able to reach out to all of the citizens, all of us, because that's why I consider myself a resident and a neighbor and a citizen of our community, to show them what they need to do. For example, I had an issue with a street curb over in my neighborhood. I reached out and I made some calls. I just called the city number, and I got the city planner, and I got some other people, and they eventually came down after a couple of days. It took a couple of days, but I had them come down, and we did a little quick evaluation of this little curb where the water was flooding. I got the information, I got the knowledge, and I got educated on how it was done, because I'm not an engineer, but I was able to tap those resources from the city people that came on down and showed me exactly. And being able to reach out to the community, and just like Brian said, being able to be there with everyone and being accessible is extremely important. And emails and phone calls and that stuff, you know, it's really easy to kind of make that simple phone call. So I want to be there for everyone.
Okay, I think Andrew's got some input on that.
Russ was first.
Oh, Russ. I'm sorry, we're just going to skip over. We're going to say
Go for it.
Okay, well, you know, like Mayor Kayek was talking about earlier, that the city has done a lot in the last few years to really save money. And so when we started putting our San Jacinto Power utility together, we saw an opportunity to actually purchase the majority of the streetlights in town from Edison so that we could actually fix them faster and control how bright they are and change them over to LED. And, you know, a lot of people don't know this, but we pay a lot of money to Edison to power those streetlights. And so if we're doing it through our own power utility, then we're saving money on both ends, because we own the unit, we maintain the unit, and now we're actually buying the power from ourselves. And so that's a really important piece of that puzzle, is we're going to have to figure out, do they have an Edison pole or do they have a San Jacinto pole? If it's a San Jacinto pole, we may not have a staff member sitting waiting for the phone to ring. Oh, well, there's a streetlight out today. All right, Bob, go fix that streetlight, because that would cost a fortune. And so it might be a couple of days before the streetlight gets fixed, because there are other high priority things that Public Works has to do. If we have a water main break somewhere, that's an all hands thing, and a streetlight's going to have to wait, because as a city, we are mean and lean. We have one of the lowest staff to population ratios in the entire state of California. Right now, I believe we have 56 total employees for a city that has 51,048 residents. And so that's almost 1 per 1,000. And so that's an amazing number. You're not going to find many cities. You go out to the desert, and I'm not throwing sand at the desert, but you go to some of the really small cities in the desert, they have more employees than we do. And they're geographically small and population small, but they have the money because of their tax measures and property taxes and things like that to do that. And speaking of property taxes, because we get a lot of hate mail from people who live in Rancho San Jacinto, and their trail lights were vandalized a few years ago when the economy was really bad. Somebody stole the copper out of them. We went to bid on that project, and I believe, and my colleagues can correct me if I'm wrong, but the cost to repair that light system was almost $400,000. Now, we have within the city what's called LLPDs, that's Landscape Lighting and Parks Districts. What those do is those pay to take care of your local parks, your neighborhood parks, your lighting, your street lights, your general landscaping around your development and things like that. That property tax pays for your area. So there's all these specific LLPDs in town. When the one for Rancho San Jacinto was established, that project was actually supposed to be twice as big as it currently is. And so it never completely built out, and so that fund has always underperformed over time, getting into Mike's territory here. And the reality is that the city general fund every year, so everybody else in the city pays to help maintain Rancho San Jacinto parks and trails. And we just don't feel it's fair to the rest of the city to drop that kind of money on that kind of improvement when the rest of the city is already backfilling to take care of the regular maintenance on their stuff. And I feel bad about that, because if we had all the money that we could possibly wish for, those are some great amenities. But honestly, I think that the Rancho San Jacinto folks need to look into possibly forming a homeowners association so that they can pay to take care of their parks and trails the way the rest of the city does, and then they can have them as nice as they want them. And that would be fair, because they're the ones paying for it.
So he's absolutely right about where the power poles are or not. And this comes back to local control, because when we were under Edison, literally it would be 9 months, maybe a year to get a light bulb replaced or fixed. I remember when I first moved in, it took a very long time, very, very long time to get them fixed and repaired. And bringing those back into the city is actually a tax-saving measure. It saves residents money. That's why we created our own power utility agency. Back in 2012, I spearheaded that. It took roughly 4 years to establish it, but those are both things that we proactively led in the city of San Jacinto, and really in Riverside County. So in Riverside County, we were one of the first cities to go with LED light poles and buying them back. If you don't know, LED light poles is a public safety measure. In meeting with the DOJ, there's several different measures you can do to make your community safer. LED lights, the way they have the light expand and get rid of shadows, they're much safer than the luminescent bulbs or fluorescent bulbs that they had before, the yellow ones. We call that a force multiplier effect. It's a way to increase public safety without being very expensive. We were one of the first ones there. Same thing with the power utility, the CCA, to take away the power from a public corporation like Edison that charges exorbitant rates for electricity. but to do it in a way where it saves our residents money and also gives money back to our general fund to pay for these things in a community. I'm proud to say that Bermuda Dunes has followed us, and now also Riverside County is following in our footsteps of what we've led with proactively in the community. So these are very important things. Responsiveness isn't the same day or sometimes the same week, as they explained, because there's stop signs that get hit and plowed over, like you heard about earlier, right? That's going to be a priority over a light pole. Those things get shifted. And then trail-wise, I'm so proud of our community. San Jacinto, we've been actually receiving awards for our Trails Master Plan that we have. We have a lot of conservation and preservation area. In Riverside County, literally over half of the county is preserved and conserved for our enjoyment and the beauty. And that's something that we need to continue, is taking care of our trails, taking care of our conservation, preservation, the natural beauty that we have is just tremendous. And we're going to see a lot of great improvements in the city of San Jacinto, but I want to see those all over. California is just a beautiful place, but we've been a leader for a long time with LEDs, with power utilities, and with trails. And it's something that, being well-rounded and leadership doesn't just come in the form of emergencies, right, or public safety or homelessness. It comes in being well-rounded, whether it's water, education, trails, light poles, be able to be proactive ahead of people and seek to find solutions where you can and leave the community a better place. And I'm happy to be leaving San Jacinto a better place, and of course want to make the 42nd a better place as well.
Our next question is from Vic DeCamp, or Van DeCamp. Several residents in San Jacinto has been converted to a licensed and unlicensed board in care facilities. They put an incredible demand on fire and EMS and local enforcement services, yet they pay the same as a single-family residence. What, if any, plans are there to ensure that they pay their fair share for the services used and not subsidized by our citizens?
So I'll go into detail on this. I mean, this is something that is a problem, but we actually have no control over. We actually had met with the DOJ on this issue, and this is statewide. Again, this comes back to part of the homelessness problem that we're having. These care facilities, a lot of them aren't licensed by the state or by the county, and they come into communities and they make a lot of money off of the state by housing these different types of residents that they have, right? There's all different types. It could be sexual offender or early release felon. It could be an addict. It could be mentally ill. There's all kinds of different pools and facilities that are there. We sought to stop the illegal ones because there's a problem with them. The illegal ones, if one of the residents is a problem resident, what happens is they get kicked out, right? So if they have a home with six residents and one's a problem one, boom, they get kicked out. Well, now they're in our community and they turn into a homeless person, right? Because they're not being cared for, they don't have any transition or anything else. It's actually a very large problem. So we actually have partnered with the county and went after the illegal ones, but we were quickly shut down and sued, more or less, because we're infringing on housing rights of a certain class of people. So the city and local government has no control. This is where you lost total local control of these things. It's been taken away from us, and it really needs to be brought back because it has substantial impacts. There's one in my neighborhood, and we have some very precarious figures that walk around our neighborhood, or walk on doors, or walked into a home with an unlocked door. They were confused on what they were doing, and they really need to be cared after. These people need to be cared after. They need to be in the right establishment, and if they're not licensed, they're not taking care of the people the right way. It's a harm to them, and it's a harm to the community as well. So I wish I had a great answer to say, hey, we're going to solve it, but we literally cannot. Legally, we've been stopped by the government, and this is where, again, when we talk about problems at the state level that we need to solve, this is one of them, folks, that we feel, and it's a great question. If we had local control, we could stop those things. And that's the kind of common sense things that I want to bring back, and to really take care of those people and not to see them turn into more homeless people out there.
And as a state assembly, you can do that?
Absolutely, right. This is legislation. This is state budgets for homeless shelters or mental health or addicts. These are all dollars that have been stripped away from programs that help people, which is why we see this big problem the last 10 years. Absolutely.
So make sure you check that check mark for Andrew
Vote.
Kayek.
That's right.
All right, Crystal, do you want to have any input on that?
No, he's right. I mean, when when I first got on council, they were still resolving the issue, and the DOJ had come down and said, hey, you can't stop this. And it irritated the heck out of me, because I have 4 little kids. When I first ran, I had a 1-year-old, a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 4-year-old. You know, to think that they had people literally living in houses very close that were, like they would scream in the middle of the night, they were on drugs, they would find them hiding in the garage. You know, it was really uncivilized for them. But there was no way for us to stop it. There's no way for us to prevent it, and it's infuriating. And frankly, if we don't get him in office, and let me tell you, when he gets into office, if he doesn't go out and put some legislation forward, I'm coming knocking on his door and saying, hey, let's get this solved right here and now.
You're done.
It's the gauntlet's down, right? He knows what we're going through, and that's why it's so important to get him into office, because if he's not in office, do you think that the other guy cares about us? Because I can tell you, the only time he shows up is for an election. There's another person and another elected official high up that does the same thing. And by gosh, you know what? If you're an elected official, you work for the people. And so you should be here. You should be here to hear this kind of stuff. Because you know what? What happens is they turn a blind ear to it. And they forget. And Andrew's not ever going to forget where he comes from, because he knows I'll come knocking on his door, and so will Russ. And we won't mess around.
You don't want the A-team coming in the
That's
door.
right.
All right, next question, let's see here. Okay, Lucy wanted to know about the potholes, which we already covered. I don't think we need to go back over the potholes again, but on the homeless situation, is there a way that the city can build a place for them to get on their feet if they like?
Here's the problem. I don't know how many of you know about Santa Ana. Santa Ana had this great idea. They had people in the riverbed, so they took 500 people and put them in hotels. They funded this. The very next day, there were 1,000 people in place of it. You can't Band-Aid it. You have to find the real solutions. So as much as we want to, remember, you build the homes, they will come, and they'll bring friends, and they'll keep coming. And we have to, as a society, say that we're not, you know, this is no longer acceptable. You should have a home. If you're mentally ill, frankly, legislation that Andrew could bring forward would be to help facilitate programs that get the mentally ill homeless people into situations where they can be cared for. Remember, folks, right now, if they don't want the help, we can't touch them.
There you go.
And it doesn't mean just homeless people who like to be homeless. If they're mentally ill and they don't want the help, we can't lock them up. We used to do that. We can't do that anymore. So legislation needs to be written that says that, okay, if you're homeless and you're mentally ill, you're not taking your meds, we need to find some type of program that you need to go into, because you can't make the decision on your own. You're not capable. It's different when you choose the lifestyle. Some people just don't like the rules and they want to choose the lifestyle. And in that case, you're not ever going to help them. You're going to say, hey, you got to move on. But those people who want to help, we should have programs that should be able to help them. And Hemet and San Jacinto is not the dumping ground. And we can't allow it to be. We can't.
What can you do about it?
Well, we put him in office. And then we help him write the legislation that changes things. When you put the right people in higher office, the ones who don't forget where they come from, then you have the ability to do something about things like this. This comes straight from our governor and the Democratic people in the superpower is what they have. And let me tell you something. It's like the criminals they're releasing. And you guys know they're releasing more criminals over here to Hemet and San Jacinto, right? Do you notice that they're not being released near them? They aren't being released near the governor. They aren't being released near the guy who's running against him. Why? Because he doesn't live here. So he doesn't think twice about us. And he doesn't care, and that's the bottom line. If we want to change things, we need to put people in office who actually care and have a passion for our community. Andrew Kayek cares about this community. He cares about Hemet, San Jacinto. He cares about everyone in the 42nd District. And I would bet you he cares about pretty much everyone in the state of California. And you know what? He's not going to judge us and say, hey, just because you come from the valley, you don't have a higher value, or you aren't as valuable as those people who come from India, the ones who donate to my campaign. That's a problem. See, when you base your decisions on who donates to your campaign, you shouldn't be in that office, and we should not be putting him in that office. And I know Andrew is never going to forget where he comes from, because when he gets cocky, if he does get cocky, Russ and I will go up there and visit him. We know where he lives.
Better not get cocky.
That's right.
You mean he's not going to move to Rancho Mirage like Chad Mays did?
Exactly.
And what's up with Chad Mays? We've challenged Chad. Do you do a debate with him? He's a no-show, no-go, no reply. I mean, somebody like that.
He's afraid.
Yeah, I mean, what are you afraid of? Are you afraid of the crazy guy with lazy eye? Or are you afraid of him? I don't know. But if you're going to do the job and you're going to be for the people, then we want to hear from you. But till now, you're just blowing, in the wind. So put that check mark where it belongs, folks. Andrew Kayek. All right, let's see. Taxes. Let's talk about taxes. Taxes have been consistently been increased, while the safety of the cleanliness of our city has been declined. I don't buy what you're selling. Talk, and more talk. Get stuff done. Get somebody with a degree and experience in financing, and increasing taxes, having no idea about finances, will continue to run our city downhill. That's what we got you for, right?
I'll take that.
Go.
So,
Your situation.
look, the city has got a fine group of folks that oversee the city. Look, it's more than one person can do, right? I think we have 5 councilmen, obviously, because it's more than one person, right? Can do. You've got, this 51 people that work in this side of the city that there's more than one person. It's more than one person can do. And the city, in their wisdom, actually sought out folks that could help run those programs, make sure those programs are in good shape, make sure we're fiscally solvent, we're not near bankruptcy. Another thing and people seem to forget this, we're a contract city for CAL FIRE with our fire services and with our police services. And that's a huge savings over other cities that have their own departments. And the fact is, the cost is fixed for the most part, except for, they go through cost of living, whatever. But I mean, it's a fixed cost for our city. I mean, we don't have, God forbid, a police officer goes out and T-bones somebody at an intersection. We don't hold the liability insurance for that. The county of Riverside does. So we have certain fixed costs. I mean, look, are there cleaner, nicer, better cities? In some people's opinion, there are. I choose to sit in San Jacinto, and I choose to live here because these are the people I know. This is the place I love, and we do quite a bit with the little amount of funds that we get. They do a good job. They do a good job.
I'm going to touch on that exactly also. Kind of really just being an outsider and looking at all of this from the outside point of view, not being in politics at all whatsoever, and learning about budgets and fiscal responsibility and treasurer and the responsibilities of the council members, it was also very intriguing for me. But we do a lot, and I say we because I'm part of the city, just like you are. The city does amazing things with the very minimal staff that's already here. And to be in the black most of the time, and not being over zealous and spending some of our funds, I think the city has done a pretty good job so far. Does higher taxes, and I hate to use the word taxes because Measure V is something that's it's being practiced everywhere else in the county. I think it could really bring some more benefit to us. As we already mentioned, we're already spending it. Why not just keep that money here? Because it's going to make your life better, it'll make my life better, it'll make all of us here at this table's lives better, and especially for our kids right there. So
I think to go to that question, I don't think people have the problem with the taxes being increased. I think they have a problem with the work getting done after the taxes is being increased. And I think that's what the gentleman, or I don't know if it was a gentleman or a lady who referenced that. The commitment to actually getting out, getting the job done, making sure that once the money is allocated, what's going to be the guarantee that the city in 2021 is going to be picked up, is going to be clean. It's, working with, various different organizations, different groups, because it's not going to fall. As you heard Russ say, there's 56 employees to some 50,000 citizens here. So, you heard the low numbers. So it's already a shortage of workers here in the community. So therefore, it's going to take more, even increasing, public safety, even increasing and bringing in more officers. It's not going to change it that much. It's still going to be the work of everyone collectively working together, starting with, even myself, I would love to have a city council cleanup month, or a day to where we go out and get the community involved. And people in this community love to come out and get involved. And I don't know, I forgot the deputy that started a couple of years ago during the trunk or treat, and it got up to 5,000-6,000 people, coming out, the Boo at the Bowl, how big that gets every year. People love to get out in this community, especially if they know what's going on. If you told the community, hey, let's get out and go, clean up, let's go do something together, and they see the leaders in this community leading that charge, I guarantee you they'll respond. There's something about the love, other than a lot of cities I've been into, the citizens here, the community here love to come out and support one another if they know what's going on. I hate reading, I wish I would have known about that. I would have came. I wish I would have knew that this was happening. I would have been there for it. And so I guarantee you, if we organize something where we invite the community to come out and say, hey, let's go repaint Little Italy restaurant. Let's bring it up. Let's go, to Main Street and get some buckets and paint. Especially if we don't have the money, but we have the manpower, we have the leg power, we have the people in this community. When we at Gibble Park, the last year, when we went out there and put 1,776 flags, there were so many residents that came out to put that 1,776 flags out there. It was more people than we had. There was enough. The people had to go in rotations because people love to come out and serve. And I really believe that if we took the charge and said, let's go out in March 1st, and we're going to pick up a different part of the community, and they see that type of leadership. Like, there's so much can be done outside of the office, and I just think that that's something that, and it instills value in the people, and they'll love to see that from the leaders, getting that done.
Hey, it's not the local taxes, folks, you should be afraid of, right? It's the state taxes. Like, literally, the propositions being put forward right now are taxation, right? Prop 15 to make the commercial industrial buildings tax increase, that's just going to be passed on, right? We're taxed on our phone, our utilities, our property, our water, plastic bags.
Yes.
The state level taxation is ridiculous. The current person in this seat, he didn't even show up to oppose or vote on a tax on your housing, right? That's the type of leadership that we currently have. Somebody who doesn't even show up. AB 5, taxation on Uber and Lyft drivers, right? Didn't show up to vote. You have a no-show basically in this situation. So you need to vote appropriately on the propositions. Majority of them should be no, except 20 and 22. And then you need to hold people accountable that are in that position, because the amount of money that the state takes in off of our backs, whether it's the gas, the cap and trade, it's ridiculous. And that's what's making it unaffordable here. That's why we have an increase in homelessness here in California. We're crushing the low and middle class. It's not the local taxes, folks. You can talk to them. You can show up at their front, their council meeting, and their offices at City Hall. You can ask them for accountability. At the state level, there's not accountability. You need somebody who's going to hold their boots up and show up just like public safety and vote to not keep raising your taxes, and vote to hold our government accountable for how we spend money and to reduce that. And I'm that guy.
Anybody else? Went around the whole table, right?
Sure. Well, everybody pretty much knows that I'm a community volunteer. You know, that's why I'm in this seat now, is because I had notoriety throughout town for all the community service projects and groups I belong to. And so, you know, I talk a lot, just like Pastor Brian. You know, we're neighbors. We're in this together. This is our valley. Let's work together to take care of it.
I think that's the key. What you'd be surprised at is we really don't get hardly any of the money that's on your tax, your property tax, that kind of thing. We don't get hardly any of that. Most of it is going elsewhere, and the city of San Jacinto is left picking up the crumbs. The thing that I can say from the time I came on 2012, when I came on, I said earlier, one of the things I wanted to do was balance the budget. I, thought, like everybody who runs for a city council thinks, that, they're spending all this money, and, how can they do that? They should be more thrifty. And we did. We went over it line by line. And I don't know that it was done that way before I got there, but when I got there, I was like questioning everything. And our meetings went forever. We would have multiple meetings over and over and go over line by line. But because we did that, because we took the time to do that, there's no fat on our budget. There's none. But the problem with that lies is that there's so much, we're so trim that when we want to add more cops to clean up the streets, or to help with the homeless and issues, to help with the schools, when we have issues with people speeding down the road, and we have all different kinds of things happen that are, surprise, oops, this happened today. We don't have the bodies there because we're so lean. And yeah, it's good to be lean. And it was hard work getting there. There wasn't one of us who didn't, sit there and go, oh, maybe we don't need that one, maybe, and we went back and forth, and we debated, man, we went back and forth, neck and neck, and we shouted at each other, and we were like, this can't be, and that can't be, and we fine-tuned everything. And then we did the smart thing, and we hired Rob Johnson. And Rob knows how to see, the problem in San Jacinto is not a spending problem. We had that under control by 2012.
Yeah.
What it is a revenue problem. And there's only so much revenue you can get by building houses. You guys have to understand, once you pay that initial fee, where's the money? Because there isn't a lot of money coming in. You have to have the retail. And that's where this Measure V comes in. It's the retail. It's not, you're paying it in Hemet. You're paying a penny in Hemet, and Hemet gets to keep that. And well, they have enough money. If they trimmed their budget and did their thing the way they should do, they probably wouldn't have any issue either. But what we need to see is we need to see it here. We need to think enough of our community that we're willing to take and pay that penny. I want those cops on the streets. After what happened with my daughter on the corner, you're not going to sex traffic my daughter. I'm sorry. I'll fight you tooth and nail. And if it means giving you a penny, every time I shop, here's my penny. Take it.
Here, take 2.
Take it. Take 10. My children are worth so many more dollars than pennies, and your children are too. And the reality is, this is simply in front of us to say, hey, do we value, our city? Do we value what our neighbors? Do we value our parents, our grandparents, our children? Do we value the children in the school? I do, and you do too. And we know that this is the right thing to do. We're paying it elsewhere. Everybody who comes here and visits should be paying that penny so that we can have those police officers on the streets. We can get the homelessness issues cleaned up. We can take care of the fire department and get those times down. I'm sorry, when you call 911, 1 minute is too long. 1 minute is too long in some situations. It counts. And if you don't have somebody there, terrible things can happen. And I don't want terrible things to happen to you. I don't want them to happen to me. I've had to call 911. I've sat there and held people as people were dying because we couldn't do anything. Do I want that for everybody else? No, I don't. I want our community is a good community. We have the best people. That's what makes us a community, is the people. And they are the best people around. My neighbors and friends and family and even the neighbors that I don't get along with, they are the best people. They're quality people. And you know what? We deserve a great place to live. And if we could put in that penny, I think we should do it. And I think we're smart to do it. There's no wild spending here. If you have any questions about the budget, come on down to City Hall. We have people who we can sit down and go over it with you. But I'm telling you right here and now, there's no fat on that budget to trim. There's nothing left to trim because we did our due diligence. We closed the parks, remember? We closed the fire station. We got rid of staff. We cut everything that we could. We made sure it was lean, mean. And now we're building things up. And we've got the right person in to bring in the businesses. We've got the right person in to bring in the home builders. We've got the right person in to lead our staff. Even as lean as it is, he's leading our staff and raising the city up. And we're giving him the guidance and telling him, hey, go and let's do this and let's do that. And he's making it happen. And that city staff is phenomenal. And hopefully you guys are watching because you guys are phenomenal. We really appreciate everything that the city staff does for us, every single one of you. We couldn't do it without them, and we should be thanking them.
Now, here's a tough question for everybody, because everybody always complains about this. And I know that this will bring a lot of money, revenue in for the city of San Jacinto, and I know you know where I'm going with this, Russ. This is actually from Justo Gomez. Keep the city out of the marijuana dispensaries. I've been told that the City Hall of San Jacinto, that they will improve permits. We don't need those businesses that will destroy young kids' lives. Well, before you guys get into that, I want to say something about that. Well, if you control your kids, they wouldn't have to go to dispensaries to begin with to get the marijuana. There's people out here that are cancer patients, that depend on this. So, keep your kids out of places like that. But anyways, I would rather see the city have a legal dispensary to where the patients can actually go to it than getting it on the street, and what taxes that it would actually bring to the city. What is your comments on that?
Everyone looks to me. Okay, I guess I'll
Start it, Russ.
Sure. So,
He referenced you, so.
right. So in 2016, the then council, I wasn't yet a part of, saw the writing on the wall regarding Prop 64 and very wisely concurrently ran our tax measure at the same time. So we were one of the very first cities to actually be able to start working towards implementing a cannabis program. Prop 64 passed in the city of San Jacinto with a 53% mandate. The tax measure passed with a 57% mandate.
67.
Was it 67? Okay, I'm sorry. Stand
It's only
corrected.
human, folks.
And so it was very evident based on those results that the people of San Jacinto wanted legal, safe, controlled cannabis. I worry about kids too, but you know what? At a legal dispensary,
Kids ain't gonna be there.
those people have a lot of money invested and a lot of time and energy and effort getting their licensing from the state and from the city. They're not going to sell to kids. And so in terms of keeping kids safe, having legal dispensaries is the best way to keep kids safe. Having
You can
a
control how the kids are getting it versus
Exactly.
kids just going out on the street and get it from who knows who, and it's
And I'll
nice
tell
for
you right now,
whatever.
Eddie, we catch a dispensary selling to a kid, they're losing their license like
You got
that.
that right.
We're
And
not
the
we're not
freedom.
going to play. That's obvious. That's simple. There's no second chances for that. And so a safe product is very important to the population. When you go to an illegal dispensary, you're spinning the wheel. You don't know what you're going to get because there's no custody tracking. There's no seed to sale tracking like the state mandates for real dispensaries. There's no testing requirements for real dispensaries. Even now, years into the process, almost 50% of legally grown cannabis gets rejected due to testing because the testing is that strict. If you have pesticides or mold or bugs or anything show up in your test batch, that whole crop goes away. You can't sell it. And so there's a lot of real public safety and control built in there. And at the end of the day, yes, that's going to cost us money to oversee. And to even just, last year as mayor, I had to fix, along with my colleagues, our ordinances because the state was playing whack-a-mole with us for the first several months. They were changing their mind every week on what the regulations were going to be. You do it this way, do it that way. And so by the time we got done with our process, and then the state finally finished their process 6 months later, ours was it was bad. And so we had to go back and fix it and make it so it could work. And I'm honestly really excited right now. We have several commercial grows, several industrial properties that are going to be doing either testing or growing or production or distribution, and a couple dispensaries all getting ready to actually come into operation. And so that means we're going to have some good paying jobs for some people. That means we're going to have some tax income so that we can actually pay the city back for watching and taking care of the cannabis program. And we're going to have a safer population because they either don't have to drive to Paris or the desert or to buy from some illegal dispensary or guy on the corner. And eventually, and I understand it's not going to be an overnight process, but eventually, through legalization, we're going to work a lot of the black market out. And hopefully even places like Anza and Sage will be safer because we have legal. And so there won't be that marketplace for all the illegal stuff. And so those are really the reasons, I think I speak for all three of us, that we supported going down that legal path is because the citizens asked for it. And so they put us in charge of doing our best to come up with the best program for the city, to take care of the city that we could. And that's where we are now.
I want to say something, and it's good that you said that the citizens asked for it. When I was driving cross country, I never thought in a million years I would see billboards advertising for people to pull over and get the best weed in town. I grew up in hoods where, if you did something like that, you'd be, spending some time in prison. And I'm not a big fan of dispensaries. I'm not. I'm not a big fan of it. And the reason why is because as growing up, it was criminalized. I've known many people who were currently down or have done a lot of time behind selling marijuana. And one of the things we used to say in the hood, or the neighborhood, I keep saying the hood, in the neighborhood we used to say that, the only reason why they won't ever legalize marijuana is because they can't tax it. And now, we're living in a different time. When I was a manager of Crunch Fitness over in Hemet, I remember somebody opened up an illegal dispensary, and it changed the trajectory of the parking lot where we were at. You start to see a lot of undesirables coming into the area, which kind of gives, support to Measure V, because, in a sense of having, these dispensaries, and based on where they're going to be located too, because I'm pretty sure there's going to be zoned for certain areas. But as Russ was saying now, and I think this is one of the key important people need to understand, is that we don't make the laws. We really support what the people are voting for, and because the people are asking for it, the best thing to do is govern it accordingly. Be smart about it. Making sure that people aren't opening up illegal dispensaries in their homes. People don't realize the millions of dollars that it's costing the citizens of San Jacinto when people are having illegal, grown shops inside their homes. If you've been watching some of the bus with the San Jacinto, with the sheriff's departments, period, in different homes with people connecting electricity. So there's so many different variables that go into it, that having it put in the right places to make sure the overseeing is done right. You're talking about money that could be lost, just from illegal places. But I'm really big on seeing exactly, the money and the revenue. From what I'm hearing, money hasn't been generated too much from it in other cities. Some have, but for me, I want to see more of the responsibility that's going to come from it, working with, law enforcement, make sure that business are, doing things right. I don't remember the gentleman's name who lost their life at the smoke shop over at Mike. Yeah, Mike. Definitely don't want to have incidents like that, because that would be the news that what people would bring up. So, it's kind of like having Measure V, bringing in, more officers to making sure that these places are where our church used to be. There were kids that were smoking marijuana behind the church. So kids can get it. Kids can get marijuana wherever. So people is worried about, like you said earlier, people are worried about their kids getting. It's not like they can walk in there. You have to be a legal age to even buy the marijuana from dispensaries, just like alcohol. So everything has to be done right. And I just think that people have an issue with it because it's been criminalized for so many years that now they're seeing the medical conditions, whether people who have cancers, people who have conditions. So I think the conversation needs to be explained all the way thorough of the pros and the cons of it, and that it's not, looked at for people just be walking down the street smoking weed, and things of that nature. Because I believe that it's designated areas. You can't just, just like an open alcohol container. You can't walk down the street drinking alcohol. So, it's, I think people just think the worst of it, thinking like, you're going to be walking down the street, people are just going to be smoking weed in, different areas and stuff like that. So I think it should be explained all the way.
People, talking about the alcohol, a lot of problem with that. You got the DUI with alcohol. Those are, people, they'll run stop signs and all that. And, the people who smoke the weed, they sit there and wait for the thing to turn green. It's just a joke, folks.
One of the things I've learned, and exactly going off what Brian just said, the only constant in life is change. There's always a change. I grew up in Los Angeles. I grew up with many of my friends from high school getting addicted to drugs, and some of my family members too are still recovering and or using drugs as drug addicts. So I was in that element. However, I've never done it because I decided to go a different route. I joined the Army and I decided to serve instead. I was never allowed to do it. And 67%, I never knew that statistic, but 67% of our community has said this is what they want. And this is what they need for our city. It is going to bring money. It is going to bring jobs. It is going to bring a regulation that some of us, again, back to education, some of us just don't know what goes into all that. We can spend the money by continuing to enforce it with our law enforcement, by busting these, and we've heard about it all over the news, these local the grow farms in different parts of our area, not our valley, but in Anza and different parts of the hills. Or we can bring that money back and provide the proper regulation to have some pretty good, decent paying jobs. From what I heard, some of these people make some pretty good money. And also from what I heard, I think that they get tips too, I believe, too. Some of them do. So
Yeah.
It will be a good thing for our community, and I stand behind it 100%.
Andrew, you go next.
You want the...
You go next. I'll finish it off.
Close up.
Yeah, I mean, look, I always said I'll represent the people regardless of party, and every community has their right to speak up and do what they seem fit for them. That's what's so great about local control. Cannabis regulation has been an utter failure for the past 50, 60 years. Failure, right? They didn't stop the cartel. They didn't stop, drugs being laced or being imported, right? Complete failure. And, there's always that saying of, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Well, guess what? This was broken, right? And it needs to be fixed. This money does need to be taxed. These laborers do need to be paid. They do need to have workman's comp insurance. They do need to get paid well, and they do in the legal industry. The cartels do need to be shut down. And quite frankly, our law enforcement spends a lot of time and a lot of your money going after all these illegal businesses. And a lot of them are very dangerous, like the honey oil labs that explode in the manufacturing because they're not abiding by OSHA and regulations and things like that in our community. So, this is a way to pay for that public safety. This is a way to regulate it in this community. And there's communities that don't want it, right? Like Yucca Valley or the Morongo Basin, right? They voted they don't want it. And that's great, right? Each community can have their voice on what they want and the path that they want to go down. But in the San Jacinto Valley and the city of San Jacinto, they've been very proactive, and it really goes to the utmost of how we've governed, right? It's not to be reactive, it's to be proactive. And as we went back to the power authority, what people don't know is after we approved that in our city, the state shut it down, right? Where cities couldn't do that. And I mean, there's been changes since then, but we were ahead of the curve. And the same attitude was here of, hey, if we have a chance to create our own regulation and our own policy on our terms before the state tells us how to do that, or some other government entity, then we need to do that. And for instance, there was a bill last year, it's tabled at the state, but there was a bill that would force every city to have dispensaries. And there'd be a certain quota per liquor store. So for every one liquor store, there'd be 3 dispensaries. I guarantee it's going to come back, and every city is going to have to allow it. I'd rather be on the front of the curb creating where and how and when, and to establish it that way versus having to react to something that we have no control over. Local control is always the most important thing, a local voice. And I think we've done a good job of that in San Jacinto. The revenue's already there. We're an agricultural city. Literally, right, for centuries we've been an ag community. This community is very supportive of that aspect, and we're going to make sure that it's done safely and done right and shut down the illegal side of it here. But it's more important every community has their own voice, and I will represent that voice.
So I'm probably going to be the one who causes all the issues here. When we first started talking about marijuana, first of all, let's get this straight. I don't believe in marijuana use. I don't believe in drug use. I don't need it. God knows you don't want to see me on it. I don't believe that I want my children involved in that. I don't want your children on drugs or alcohol or marijuana. When we first started talking about this, I kind of went down the path kicking and screaming and kind of dragging everything, trying to stop this. But one thing that we were aware of was that this measure was going to pass. And the point that Andrew made about setting and making the decisions and deciding what and how to tax and being in charge of it rather than leaving the state in charge, that was the number one reason that we moved forward. That, and we really wanted people who had medical issues to be able to we believe that they should be able to buy it legally. I don't believe you should go out and get high, but that's just my personal belief. Knowing that this thing was going to pass, we did what we had to do to protect the community, and literally it was a protection method. We knew it was coming. We knew that we had to decide: do we want to trust to decide how we're going to do this, or are we going to take control of it? Right. So we go down this path, and as we're going down this path, I noticed a thing or two. Let me give you a little hint. Drug dealers don't follow the rules. They don't like rules. My problem with the marijuana and going down this path is I figured, you're going to get legal marijuana dispensaries and grows, and then you're going to get the illegal. And when they've already been down that illegal path, they want to go back down that path, right? So the problem lied in how could we get them to stay on the straight and narrow? What was the teeth behind what we were doing? So I was on the regular meetings, and they knew, and Andrew knew I was not wanting to go down this path because it doesn't, I just don't like it, right? But the way I look at laws, the way I look at legislation, you have to look at the whole picture. You can't go in there and say, hey, I want to have, I have this rosy idea of what's going on and be blind to everything else. You have to be honest about what's going on. So So we took a look at everything, and we did hours and hours and hours. Oh my gosh, thousands of hours. We went and we went to legal dispensaries. We went to legal grow houses. We went to see what it was really like to have something that's really a legal business. And when you look at the legal business, all the products that they're making now for marijuana, it's not just getting high, but it's stuff for makeup. It's stuff for body washes and hair washes. Everybody's got their marijuana stuff that they use that you can go buy in the grocery store. If we could be a part of that, that's not bad. They're not creating marijuana to get high on. They're creating products to use, actual manufacturing. So, okay, how could we do this? This was the question of the day and what we had to decide. And we debated and we fought and we fought and we fought. I went into an ad hoc committee meeting, and I thought to myself, drug dealers don't follow rules, right? So we're talking about dispensaries at this point. And I'm like, well, if you have a restaurant that has an ABC guideline where if you do really bad, they give you an F and you're closed, right? Why couldn't dispensaries have some type of guideline where we knew that they were following the rules? And so we created our plan so that technically only legal businesses are going to open up here in San Jacinto. You're not going to have a pot shop that's going to deal with the young kids, because if they lose their local license, they lose their state license. They're done. They're washed up. We also tied dispensaries to grows so that you had to have some type of investment first before you can open a dispensary. You had to prove that you were actually able to do a legitimate job and to form a legitimate company before you could move forward. So we tied all these things together because we want business to be successful, but we don't want drugs handed over to the young kids. But I got news for you folks. They have something called weed maps. They deliver.
That's right.
They deliver. They deliver anywhere. They'll deliver it to a school. And that's a problem. The thing is that the state of California, they opened this up. They opened the can of worms. You can't put things back. What we can do is control how it's going to affect our community. We've got rules and regulations. We want legitimate businesses, no hokey pokey. And if you're going to do that, we're going to shut you down because we're not going to put up with it. If you can't follow the rules, you can't be in San Jacinto. If you want to do your illegal stuff, take it somewhere else. Not here, because we're not going to put up with it. We've seen too many houses blown up by people trying to extract oil from marijuana. I'm telling you, we get the calls. Oh, guess what? So-and-so's burned up. We know what's going on. Do I want your neighbor's house to be full of marijuana for an illegal grow? No. If you know that there's an illegal grow, you call the police on the non-emergency number and you tell them what's going on. Remember what we said earlier, see something, say something? You have to be diligent in this. If you see kids buying marijuana from someone, report it.
Or if you see kids selling marijuana. report it.
Exactly, exactly.
Having ownership in your own community.
It is, and it bites that we have to go down this road, it bites that we saw
100%.
this, but when we talked about this, I took notes from all the different states that had already opened up, and I brought them forward, and we had some really go-to-blows meetings. You guys, he's laughing because he knows, and Andrew knows. My thing is protect our kids and protect our community. This is the only way we can protect it. If you don't have rules and regulations set into place by now, your city's in trouble because the state is going to come down with those mandates. And Andrew said that was tabled, and I'll remind you of what he said. He said that they were going to force us to have dispensaries in every city in a certain amount based on the number of liquor that's sold. Not just liquor stores, but you have restaurants,
stores, yeah.
you have liquor stores, you have grocery stores, all of these count for it, right? Are we going to let the state of California push this down on us? They're going to bring it back right after the election. I can guarantee it. And you know what? We need him there, but let's have common sense. Because otherwise, we're going to have a real problem here in California. And it's not just here in the city of San Jacinto. Those cities who didn't set rules and guidelines, they're not grandfathered in. They have a problem. They have a problem. The state of California is going to come in and tell you exactly what you have to do and how to do it. These were protection measures. I don't like it. I don't agree with it. I don't, it was like the hardest thing for me to vote for any of it. And yes, sometimes I was the deciding vote. It's either we leave it for a free-for-all or we regulate it. And in this case, we did the best that we could. We regulated it and we made it so that it's going to be difficult for anybody who runs an illegal dispensary or illegal grow. It's going to be difficult for them to come into our city and operate. And if we find them and we know how to quickly shut them down, and we do. And we need your help. See something, say something, call the non-emergency number.
All right, well, that was a mouthful right there. That's a lot of good detail you put out, Crystal. All right, the last question I want to ask, and then there is other questions. I know we are running out of time. Everybody's probably wanting to get home and relax. This has been a 3-hour live stream. This is from Timothy Kubo. Everybody knows Timothy. Good evening, friends and leaders of Main Street. Should be the heart of the San Jacinto. What are you going to do to improve it and make it a great place for families to visit? I want a downtown San Jacinto to blossom. There's very nice abandoned buildings that could make a great welcome center for the new office for the chamber. And I'm sure he's also probably talking about Five Corners Old Motel, what are the plans to do with that? And yeah, what's your answers on that? You can start, Crystal.
I would love to start. I'm so excited about downtown San Jacinto. We have been working on this since 2012, and I'm sure they were working on it long before, but we have been talking about having different types of venues downtown. You guys have been to Old Town Temecula, where you see the businesses down below and either offices up above, or they have apartments up above, senior communities up above, where they have nightlife that people actually go to. The Vosburg is going to be the community center. The city owns that property, and we're working on that now. So over the coming year or so, you should see things breaking loose there. We're very excited about that. The Virginia Lee, which is the yellow building there, and the vacant property next to that, you're going to see some things coming through there. If you had been to one of our council meetings, last one or the one before, they showed beautiful renderings of what we want that to look like. And the reality is we've taken the time over the last few years to really come together to decide what we want downtown. We had meetings, we had community events where we all went down, and you said you were a part of some of those community events, where we said, hey, downtown needs to be the center point of the city, and it's very exciting that that's exactly what we're doing with the entrance to the Sabova, right down there on Main Street to the casino. All of that's going to lead right down into downtown with City Hall, the community center, all kinds of things. I can't wait to see it done. I can't wait to see some of the youth programs that we're going to have there. One of my favorite youth programs in this whole community is Boxing for Christ. You guys know that Sonia gets the kids off the streets and out of the gangs, and now she's not only got she not only had somebody going to the Olympics, but he's now a professional fighter, and he knocked out the very first one right there, first round, knocked the guy out in his first professional boxing match. These are the kind of things that we have coming from San Jacinto, and we deserve the best downtown and community that we can get. Just throwing paint on a building is not going to help. We've tried that. They've done that over the years. We know this. But what needs to happen is we need to rebuild the downtown district so it's a destination point for people who want to come in. You want a coffee shop where you can hang out with. You want a place where you can go down there and enjoy some entertainment at night. Wouldn't that be great in the Virginia Lee, that yellow building with a garden park there? That would be the best place to have outdoor venues. When you talk about the Civic Center, the blue building on the corner and the parking lot, everything, can you imagine having a night area where we can have some entertainment there in that area, and then have office space and maybe some coffee bars or restaurants down below, and just make it a place that people really want to come to. This is a college town. Remember, we have Mount San Jacinto College right here, and what better place to have, kids come out at night and hang out and enjoy themselves and really have entertainment. If you look at downtown Temecula, you'll see, where it should look like. We should have businesses down there. We should have things for people to do. It should be a place that people want to hang out, and that's what we're working on. It doesn't happen overnight. It's taken us a long time to get where we are. A lot of what we've done over the last few years, it's come rapidly in the last year or two because of Rob Johnson. It's because of the city staff and how they think outside the box. And when we told Rob that we wanted something like that downtown, he went, okay, and he's making these things happen. And everything that we've asked for, he's actually delivering on. So you can bet that Main Street is going to be a phenomenal place to be. And you know that once we get back with the 4th of July parade, it comes right down Main Street so people can truly enjoy it. We're going to see a whole bunch of stuff come in there. And hopefully, we start having good news for you guys in the coming months. Some of it's just in talks right now, and I'd rather wait until we have it in planning. But I can guarantee you, you're going to see some changes downtown, and it's all because of the good work of the city council, the current city council, the city staff, and our awesome city manager.
When I first came to the city 16 years ago, and I drove down Main Street and I drove around our city, there were more businesses open, small businesses open back then than there are now. And obviously, we all know the housing market that hit in late 2008, 2010. And then we're still trying to recover from that, and then that closed a lot of the businesses down. So Timothy, I know exactly how you feel, because I feel the exact same way. It's something I've always wanted to see happen in our city. And I'm glad to hear, because I've been, again, learning about this from a third point of view, there are plans in place that are rolling, and they're moving in the right direction. The Vosper being one, being acquired by the city, and more opportunities for us to have a little downtown area, just like Temecula has. Just like the city that my wife grew up in, Glendora, some place where we could all go at night. I even dreamed, and it's funny that you brought this up I even dreamed. I told my wife one day, it's kind of weird because I don't play the lottery, but if I ever won the lottery, I'd invest a lot of small businesses in downtown San Jacinto, and I would love to do that. But I never played the lottery, so I don't think it's ever going to happen. But I've actually looked at some property there to open up an explorer's office headquarters for our kids, a place where they can go after school, even if it's just to help with homework, even if it's just to help, with ASVAB test preparation, academic preparation. Obviously, being a very, very small nonprofit with actually zero income is difficult to secure rent to pay for that at this point in time, but might be something in the future. So just like you, I want to see the exact same thing happen, and I know for a fact if I do get elected, I can help make that happen.
Hey, Timothy, it's a good thing that you mentioned Main Street. As a matter of fact, my campaign video is filmed on Main Street for that very reason. There's actually a boutique being opened up right up on Main Street. When I did my prayer walk about a month ago, one of the 3 center locations from Namers to Post 848, American Legion, and then end off at Mistletoe Park. I walked down Main Street. There was a building that I initially wanted to move our church to, but it had earthquake structures that needed to be put in place, and it just became an expense. And that's one of my things that I wanted to focus on. Was Main Street, because I do believe a city, especially a city like this with a historical Main Street, definitely needs to be revitalized. Speaking to, one of the family members that owned the Virginia Lee had reached out to me on Facebook because they felt like that has been the thing of the past, is this overlooking a building that belonged to her aunt, and that was initially sold to the city. So, to hear the plans is great, but like I said, the reason why I'm running is to make sure that these plans get done. I mean, we can say it don't happen overnight. We can say it can't get done right away. I challenge that. I challenge anything can happen. We're in America, and anything is possible. A week ago, I was standing on the shores of Jamestown, where the first slaves were brought in here 400 years ago. And I was standing there as a free man. So to think that what's possible in this country, where there was a law that was written that African Americans would stay slaves forever in this country, and I look around in 2020 and that's not true. So I just believe that, when you put your mind to something, regardless of, the work and the effort that's been done before, I think that anything is possible. I really believe that we can bring that life to Main Street, if that's our focus, if that's our heart, as the gentleman Timothy said, if that's something that's on our heart. If it's on your heart, it can be done, and I just believe it's possible.
So, I'll throw in on this. So, Tim, I remember one Saturday when we did a ribbon cutting walk, and you and I and Russ actually were walking around some of the old cities talking about some of the old buildings. A lot of them are structurally deficient to state it. It just is what it is. They need a lot of work to be done. However, you get the right people in there. There is some work being done in the city. I remember a few years ago when we were down there, we had Wayne's Jewelers, we had another, I don't want to say it was Neighbors, but I'm not positive. Neighbors was there. There's a couple other businesses that aren't there anymore. Through probably no fault of their own because of recent.
No, Namers is there. They just moved down.
Oh, did they just?
Yeah,
Okay,
they moved to a bigger location.
All right,
yes, sir.
sorry. But there's open real estate on Main Street, and some of these businesses are gone now because of no fault of their own. It's disheartening, but I do think San Jacinto's best days are ahead of it downtown. I mean, that's just my personal feeling. I mean, it's gotten a lot better since I've been a kid. I remember downtown when we had First Interstate Bank on Main Street. So I do think it's coming around. I do think it's going to happen. Just got to get the right people in the right places to have it happen.
Anybody else?
Sure. I'd just like to say that there's exciting things happening on Main Street now. Whether it's our American Legion using our COVID rules for parking lot utilization for outdoor patio. One of our members is an amazing carpenter, and he built a temporary fence around the Legion parking lot. We have a bunch of patio tables, a cornhole set, and so now that the weather's getting nice and we've been allowed to actually go inside, I'm sure when you come down to the Legion on Taco Thursday and see me cooking, that you're going to find people eating both inside and outside.
Oh, you cook? Come on, try
I cook every
tacos.
Thursday
Come on,
night at the
Russ.
American Legion, yes, sir. And the Legion's open. The post is open at least Thursday through Sunday now for all the member veterans, as well as when we're doing the meals at night. The public's welcome. You just got to get a member to sign you into the book, and you can come and hang out and talk to some of our veterans, like Tim. Tim's a veteran. Regarding the Vosburg, it's the city's responsibility to make sure and preserve some of our history. And the previous owner of the Vosburg was letting it sit there, unsecured, not taking care of it. We see what he kind of did by tearing out the parking lot and all of the other half measures that he took to do. But the reality is, if the city hadn't bought that building when it did, most likely by now it would have been burned down by vagrants. Because that's what happens with those buildings, is if they're not secured, they get in there, they get cold, they start a fire where they're cooking, and it gets out of control, and then you lose history. And so not only for development and all the great things that Crystal talked about for the future, but to preserve our history as well, it was important for us to go ahead and take that opportunity. We're currently looking for commercial partners so that we don't just invest the city's money, because we do have limited resources. And so we're looking for a private corporation to partner with to redevelop that property and really make it the gem and the catalyst for the new downtown. We've talked about doing all of the other great multi-use projects that Crystal was talking about. Right now, the old Borders Cleaners building was just sold. You're going to see 2 new businesses moving into that building. The old dollar store right across the street from American Legion has been sold, and they're doing their tenant improvements now to open a new business on Main Street. And of course, like we've talked about, the synergy with Saboba. One of our long-term goals is to have some sort of shuttling system, or possibly even a trolley or a cable car, to go between Saboba and downtown once we get some of these elements there. And so there's plans there, but again, unfortunately, it's government and things do take some time sometimes. I wish I could clap my hands and do a dance and make something just pop up like I'm playing SimCity, but that's just really not how it works.
Power since the COVID.
But things are happening, and we are excited, and I think a lot of the public is excited as well. And You're going to see more of the art elements. You know, we just put into place a public arts program, and you're going to start seeing some public art going in downtown to improve downtown and to improve the way it looks. And just the last thing I really want to touch on is we do have those old buildings that are either red tagged or need a fortune in work down there. And so that does make it difficult. Not making excuses, just saying that's the reality. But there used to be a methadone clinic that most people didn't even really know about at 5 Points there, where the old bank building is. That's a party store now. We worked with the county to get that clinic moved because it was hurting downtown. And so you're going to see less problem behaviors downtown as well because that clinic isn't there anymore. And so we're paying attention. We're doing what we can within our means.
Yeah, I couldn't be more happy to see all these improvements coming in that you're aware of. And when I first came on 10 years ago, we formulated a strategic plan, economic plan to rebuild the city and really to come up with different designs and plans in each different portion of town. You're seeing that now, right? We literally have 4 different quadrants where growth is going off, whether it's on the south end by Walmart or on Sanderson or north by the college or downtown now. And the next phase that's happening is the entertainment district by Saboba. This is that next region that is going to be growing. Right now there's retail that is going in right off the expressway, and that will keep those tourists that are coming to Saboba to spend the night to be entertained, right? And stay more days, stay in our community, leave their money behind, right? Create those jobs that are here. But it takes time to do these things, just like the highways that I fought for are finally being built, right? Mid-County Parkway is finally under construction. It's going to reopen this valley up and the economic portion of this valley up, and especially San Jacinto. You know, you heard it earlier that our median age was 55 when I first started, and the median age is now 30. It's young, it's vibrant young people in families that are finding this home. They're raising their family here. They're looking for entertainment. They're spending money. San Jacinto is now in the top 3 of Riverside County of growth in valuation increases in homes and property here. We have manufacturers that are coming here, right? Hundreds of jobs you heard about earlier, their employers are coming here where people don't have to commute. It's that sort of thing that I want to see for the whole district. This District 42 is a key part. As we talked about the arterials, they'll feed into the 10 freeway and connect one side to the other. These are all communities that deserve advocacy, right? They need somebody up there championing them when there's other employers or ways to reduce taxes. One of the biggest things we did in 2012 is to back off of our development fees. It was very simple. Out of the Great Recession, a lot of home builders started building homes and they had to stop. So there's a lot of expiring plans that were going forward, right? And when they expire, if they're going to be built again, the builder has to bring plans forward. It's a 2-year process to approve. They have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. It becomes a huge hurdle, right? And I knew that wave of growth would occur again in California, and we better be ready for it. So we proactively said, let's not let these plans expire. Let's extend them for 6 years, 8 years at a time. Let's reduce their fee for the extension where they don't have to pay those huge fees again. But when that growth comes, we'll be ready. And boy, were we ever. Right now, we literally have 8 home builders right now. All those tracks that were half built now are being completed. And you're seeing retail come back in. You're seeing jobs come back in because we were ready, folks. We were proactive in what we did. And that's really what we need in the 42nd District is that proactiveness. How do we diversify? How do we create more jobs? How do we reduce the cost to do these things? And better yet, how are we prepared when it happens? And that proactiveness, as you see here in San Jacinto, has been wonderful. I want to bring that to all of you in the 42nd District.
Y'all have anything you want to say in closing?
Great time tonight. Fantastic meeting with the other folks here. Glad we can get out there and talk to people online. Just vote make sure, make it happen. Get out there and vote for your city and what you want.
You know, I do want to say two things in closing. One of the things, because I saw it brought up, the fact that none of us are wearing masks. I saw that comment on there a few times.
Yeah, we had our Karens on there tonight.
Yeah, I saw that a few times. You know, we came in with masks on. I mean, we are a distance apart. The thing is, you know, especially when dialoguing and people are trying to hear, it kind of makes it difficult. I'm seeing everyone come here with masks on and carrying them, but at the same time wanted to make sure that the information was conveyed correctly and that people were able to hear. You know, I know we're never going to be able to appease everyone, but at the end of the day, you know, we wanted to make sure that this right here, you know, this is probably the only time we're most likely going to get together. The election is in 2 weeks. Most people have, I'm not going to say most people, but I know a majority of the people have already cast ballots, but for those who haven't, it's not like the individuals here don't adhere to the regulations that are set forth. So that was just the one thing that I wanted to make aware of. And also the other thing is that, you know, regardless of the outcome, you know, I know myself, I'm going to work with anyone here, whether I'm elected or not, you know, because that's what I'm here to do, is serve in the community. The question about party affiliation, if you look it up, yeah, you'll find out that Crystal, Russ, myself are Republicans. One of the reasons why I kind of like the fact that Phil is here, because I know he's a Democrat, and so it brings a balance. I don't want one party rule nowhere. I want it to be a balance. One of the things I'm hoping for in California is that we can balance this thing out. And so I'm definitely in support of a balanced state and a balanced nation. But, you know, I would love to see Andrew take the helm and state assembly. Like I said, any person that's here, I've worked with everyone at this table. I kind of get to know Phil a little bit, but I know I've worked with Crystal and Russ over the years. You know, I don't have anything negative to say about anyone here. And even if, when I made the video right before I went out to DC, it wasn't to make an issue about any candidate destroying signs. It's happening to everyone. No one is above their signs being destroyed. So I definitely don't want it being taken as though I have an issue with anyone at this table, because I don't. And I intend to work with anyone here in the future.
Phil?
Thanks, Brian, and yes, I carry it around, and I really, when it comes to masks, and I know the COVID-19 issue has affected everybody. It's affected me. Being a teacher, having to work from home and teach my students when I'm used to engaging them every single day face to face, it's tough, and everyone has had to deal with it in their own certain way, and I really wear this mask for everybody else. And I know that everyone does the exact same thing here too. And everyone here at this table are awesome people. And I've been a neighbor of Russ for 16 years, ever since we moved into the same street day one. And I'm learning a lot about a lot of different people in the community, including Brian too. And it's been a great experience. And I've learned so much these past couple of months that I never thought I would learn about. Politics and community and just getting involved, and that's really what kind of sparked me to stand up and do something, because I didn't want to be watching the television and watching the news and seeing things happen and me not have any sort of input or say in what's going on, which I believe every one of you are watching right now. So no matter what happens on November the 3rd, vote. You have to vote. That is our constitutional. It is our right. It is something that a lot of our country take advantage of now. And this is something I express to my students almost every single year. The new status about being able to have kids pre-register at 16 so they can be ready by the time they're 18. Something I encourage. I give extra credit to my students to encourage the 16-year-olds. My son just turned 16. Guess who's going to be filling out that form very, very soon? It is so important to just get out and vote and let your voice be heard, because honestly, without you speaking up, everybody up here is nothing. We're absolute nothing. We can't, and we can't do any of these jobs that that you want us to do, that you want us to make our city better. And it really takes a lot of effort, because I know your vote is personal, and I know that your vote is something that you really, really care a lot about. And I really hope you exercise that right to vote. And I really hope that you vote for the right candidate to make sure that it's taking our city in the most positive direction, to see a difference, to see a change, and see things really happen in our city. And thank you very much. November 3rd, don't forget to vote.
Go ahead, ladies first.
Okay. Folks, first of all, it's been an honor to be here tonight and to be representing you folks since 2012. When I ran in 2012, I made campaign promises. And as you know, as you found out tonight, I'm reliable enough to make them happen. I take to heart the job duties and responsibilities of a city council person. I've gone to represent you and bring your voice to the city council. I know what you live like, because I live just like you. We're a one-income family. I have 4 children, and we live paycheck to paycheck, just like you do. When COVID hit, I started work at 7 a.m. and I was sent home at 7:20. Thank God I had some vacation time, because I used part of it to subsidize the income, because I didn't know what else to do. We struggle just like you. Brian mentioned I'm a Republican, but let me tell you something, I'm an American first. My husband laughs because, I've known all my life that we've been part of the American Revolution. We fought on the Union side. We fought on the American side. We fought in the Civil War on the Union side. But then what I found out was we're not only fighting in the American Revolutionary War, but we came over on the Mayflower. Not only did we come over on the Mayflower, we signed the Mayflower Compact. You can't get more red, white, and blue than that. Our people went over to the neighboring cities and bought the slaves, taught them Christianity, and freed them. That's what we did. I don't see black, white. I don't see Hispanic. I don't see colors. My children don't see colors. In fact, it wasn't too long ago they found out I was white and they were shocked. They always thought I was tan. But what we've taught our kids is to see people through their heart, who they really are, and bringing them up and raising them up here in San Jacinto in front of all of you. I mean, honestly, they've grown up in this community learning how to be American citizens by watching all of us on the council, watching all of you in the community, wanting to show who they are and what they think. And I'll tell you something, they are very proud of San Jacinto. They love this community as much as I do. I have the support of my husband, God bless him. He's such a blessing to me and to our children. And it gives us the opportunity to be a blessing to you. I represent you on regional council or regional governments, meaning in the county. I represent you in the state of California, and I'm the only one in this room that can say I've represented you with 2 presidents. I brought your voice to the table. I didn't say what I wanted to say, I said what needed to be said, so that not only do we have the ear of the White House, but I'm on weekly calls with the White House. They know who San Jacinto is, and they know what we stand for, and they care about you. So I ask you, I let you know that, one, that I am ready to do this again. I'm ready to fight for you. I'm ready to bring your voice to all levels of government. And I truly want to thank you right now for all your support. So many of you have shown support for our family when we were in times of need. When my mom died, when my mother-in-law died, we couldn't have been in a better position because of this community. So I gratefully, thankfully, I thank you for the opportunity to serve you. I'm honored to serve you, and I graciously ask for your vote for this election on November 3rd.
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it right there from the people, for the people. I want to appreciate everybody for coming out.
I don't get to speak.
Oh, well, I'm sorry, Russ. Go ahead real quick.
Yeah, don't worry.
ahead,
First,
go
I want to point out that it's been said a couple of times at this table tonight, I think on accident, that running against or whatever. I believe this is probably the most unified group of people of 4 running for 3 open seats that any city could be blessed to have. This man's my neighbor, this man's my pastor. Any of the 4 of us who get in, we're going to work hard for our city because we believe in our city. Me personally, I chose to move my family here in 2006. We could have moved anywhere. We looked at Marietta, we looked at Temecula, we looked at other parts of Riverside. We spent a long time looking at communities and homes, and we chose San Jacinto on purpose because we knew the future San Jacinto had based on what they already had. We like the agricultural background. We like that we're a growing city. We like that we can actually know our neighbors and actually talk to people. I love my community. When they closed the fire stations, I led a community cleanup to pressure the council to reopen that fire station because I was making a lot of noise about that fire station being closed because it was on my side of town. Call me selfish. And the response I got back from the city manager was, oh, it's just too expensive to reopen because the landscaping has so overgrown, yada, yada, yada. 2 weeks later, through the San Jacinto Lions Club leading the project so that it wasn't a city project because of insurance liability, stuff like that, we had 33 members of the community out there all day long cleaning that station up. And so I'm proud that we live in a place where that can happen. And so, you know, I consider myself one of the luckiest people in the world because I get to represent this great area. And hopefully I'll get to do it for another 4 years. Thank you. Vote Utz. You can find me on Facebook. My website is www.russutz.com. My personal email is russutz@gmail. And my personal phone number is 951-255-3425.
So, ladies, you know who to call.
My wife would not appreciate that, Eddie.
I want to say, I want to get you in trouble. But anyways, I want to say thank you, everybody. We're going to try to go ahead and end this. I want to say appreciate to Alonzo Adasma with San Jacinto Realty for hosting the place for us. And I'm trying to end this because Alonzo's ready to get home. He's tired. We all tired. Everybody's tired. So I want to appreciate John Strangus for coming out again as our camera guy, and also shout out to Adam McQueen for running our sound system as well, and Dennis Fletcher for being here on the fly to host a question since somebody didn't show up tonight. I'm not going to mention no names, but anyway, Mark Allentine, we missed you. Thank you for your help as well too. So you heard it from the people, for the people, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you do throw in your votes.
For being good.
Make sure you vote for the right person. And remember, if you want changes in your city first, folks, make sure you do check that check mark for Andrew Kutyuk for the state, because that's where the help's going to come from. Is his support.
Balance.
Y'all make sure you do share our video, comment that you shared. Please do not share it back in the San Jacinto News and Him and I News, because we're already there. And a week from today, we're going to pick a name from the sharing contest, and we'll be giving away a free family pack from Boys Burgers as one of our sponsors. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Give them a try. So this is Eddie George. They call me that hillbilly crazy guy with the lazy eye. You call me anything, don't call me Nick Burrell Zarafi, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in. And make sure you share and check that right check mark on the ballots, folks. Thank you for tuning in. We're out of here.
Thank you. Thank you, Eddie.